Okay, I think we're finally getting into this. Took me a while to set up, but we're here. Let me make sure everything sounds good. Sounds good. Okay, my voice sounds okay. Sounds like a voice. Hold on, my cat wants in. If I don't let him in, he'll never leave. He'll just keep scratching my door. Alright, so I heard Vati Vidya is one of the best ones to watch.
Can you get my back?
This is what I need to check mostly, is the desktop audio compared to mine.
The oldest and
Okay, let me see how that ad was sounding. This is what I need to check mostly, is the desktop audio compared to mine.
the oldest
Vidya is one of the best ones to watch.
Can you get my back?
This is what I need to check mostly, is the desktop audio compared to mine. Okay, I think it's okay. I think it sounds alright. Mikey, you're just stepping all over the fucking keyboard, son. Mikey, you're just stepping all over the fucking keyboard, son. Wait, where did that come from? My phone? That tripped me out. Oh my god. Yeah, the cat just walks across the keyboard like nothing ever happened. Fucking cats, you know. What can you do? Okay. I think we are ready. I think we're ready, yeah, to watch, react, and learn. Stay a while and listen. What are these running at? Shit. Um, 240p? No. Let's at least go to 720. I don't know how good this computer runs if it'll run a stream at playing a video at 720. I struggled during the live stream of the Pokemon and the Mortal Kombat one. So we'll see.
the oldest and strongest emotion of
Okay. This guy's got a great voice. Strongest emotion. The fear of the unknown. Oh, dude, I'm hyped. No, guys, I've still been playing it. I've been doing like an arcane run. Nothing. You just you're right on time, dude. I just started. It took me forever, so that's why I'm a little late. It took me forever to get this audio and everything just set up. I'm still pretty new to this. This junk. So yeah, you're right. You're right on cue. We're watching, what was his name again? Something Vidya? Vati Vidya. This is one of the, I guess, the best ones. 5 million views. Damn, dude. Oh, yeah, you're good, man. Yeah, we're just getting started. Alright, let's get into this. Let me know how the audio sounds with the video playing.
mankind is fear, and the oldest and strongest kind of fear is fear of the unknown. H.P. Lovecraft.
See, this is really based on H.P. Lovecraft.
Fear the old blood.
These were the words spoken between Master Willem and Lawrence, from the cautious teacher to the ambitious student. Fear what you do not understand. Fear the old blood. And so our story begins, as you might have guessed, with blood.
He's got some great lore
Ancient
videos.
blood. Deep below the city of Yharnam lies the ancient underground labyrinth of Tumeru. You know it as the Chalice Dungeons. The old labyrinth was carved out by the Tumerians, superhuman beings that are said to have discovered a sinister truth. The hunters had another name for the labyrinth. They called it the Tomb of the Gods, for below they found traces of godlike beings named the Great Ones. The Great Ones could function on transcendental planes.
So they came from underground?
Meaning they had elevated their consciousness beyond the physical realm. The benefits of operating on this plane are unclear. Perhaps it was in the name of immortality.
Video's lagging for you? Let me check. Oh yeah, it's running pretty shitty like. Yeah, this computer is so whack. I have to run at 480 and see how it looks.
Or perhaps power, as even beyond, the Great Ones could interfere with beings and events in the waking world. Whatever the case, it is clear
still
that
looks
some
like
sort of
trash.
ascension took place, as there are numerous references to some Great Ones being left behind. Of all the strange life forms that reside in the nooks and crannies of the old labyrinth, the slugs...
Hopefully one day I can
signs
afford an
of left
actual good
behind
computer.
Great Ones. One such Great One appears to be abandoned Ebritus, a left-behind being who apparently did not ascend with her brethren. One day, Ebritus would be discovered by the humans above, in a crusade that begins with a character named Willem. Master Willem presided over a prestigious
that's
place of
Willem.
learning, Bergenworth, situated
remember
by a
killing him.
tranquil lake and secluded within a gigantic forest. Bergenworth
Hey Shavion, how's it going?
changed the world.
Been
In fact,
forever since I've
everything
seen you.
sacred in Yharnam came to be traced back to Bergenworth, including the most
Ready to stay a while and
influential
listen?
characters within our story. Bloodborne's lore is very character-driven, and there are 5 who I'm going to help you become familiar with. There was Master Willem, Runesmith
Yeah, me
Carol,
too.
Lawrence, Mikolash, and Gurman. I'll introduce them to you in the order that they become relevant in the story.
I've been okay.
As I said, Master Willem was the head of the school at Bergenworth. The man was obsessed with the truth, and believed in pushing the limits of humanity. In almost every dialogue and description, Willem is referred to as Master or Provost, clearly deserving of a great deal of respect. Many would eventually diverge from his tutorage, but few can say that they didn't owe everything to his research, for while Willem presided over Bergenworth, the scholars there discovered terrific things in the tombs below the city of Yharnam.
Once, a group of young Bergenworth scholars discovered a holy medium deep within the tomb. This
So the chalices actually have a lot of
church and the establishment of blood healing.
a lot of
It's hard to be
details to
sure
the lore.
exactly what
I didn't know
was
that.
but we do know it was related to the Great Ones. On the ground floor of Bergenworth,
I thought they were just kind of an
we
extra
find
thing.
the pearl slugs, remnants of the Great Ones, and at the very top of
All
the
right,
column,
thanks.
we find the empty phantasm shell, an empty invertebrate shell that is said to be the familiar of a Great One. After this discovery, whatever it was that showed them that the Great Ones existed, the Bergenworth scholars launched an inquiry into the Great Ones and the Old Blood. For from this point onwards, there is an explosion of lore and history and references to what the scholars found in the tombs below Yharnam. Many
Crazy
of
to
these
think the chalices are a
references
huge
come
part of
from
the
Runesmith
lore,
Carol,
but they're
a
completely
central
optional.
character
And
of our
personally,
story.
to me,
Carol
most boring part.
transcribed
Yeah,
the
I
inhuman utterings
I
of
felt
the
that too.
Great
That the
Ones
most weakest
into
part
what
of the
we now
game.
call Carol runes. In true Lovecraftian fashion, it is really likely that it's impossible for humans to comprehend the speech
And yeah,
of
they're
the Great
optional
Ones.
too.
But Carol apparently had a knack, a talent, for
Which the lore
creating
is
a
too in the
visual
story. It's
representation
not shoved down your
of the
throat
Great
at
One's
all.
words.
You have to
The
find it
hunter who
yourself.
receives this workshop tool can etch Carol runes into their mind.
That's what makes it more
to
interesting.
attain their
Is it's not
wondrous
shoved down your throat.
Provost Willem would have been proud of Carol's runes, as they do not rely upon blood in any measure.
It doesn't
This
start off with
statement
some
is
big boring
curious.
cutscene or
It tells
anything
us
like
3
that.
things. First, Provost Willem and Carol were close, as Willem would have been proud of him. And second, Willem didn't have a chance to be proud, so it's possible that the two lost contact. And thirdly, and most importantly, Willem would have been proud because the
Yeah, I
runes
want to
did
do
not
platinum. I
rely
want to
on
get
blood.
platinum too.
In other
I'm like
words,
halfway there.
Willem did
More
not
than
know
halfway
the runes
there.
of the old blood, the blood found in the tomb of the gods.
You have to do 3 full runs of the game.
The discovery of
Or not
blood
full,
made their
but
dream of evolution a reality.
just 3
Metamorphosis
runs of the
and
game.
excesses and deviation that followed.
plus the
was only
chalices.
beginning. Willem believed in a different path. He believed in attaining more insight, for humanity's eyes had yet to open. The Eye Rune states that Master Willem looked to beings from higher planes for guidance, and sought to line his brain with eyes in order to elevate his thoughts. And with these descriptions, you should have some idea of the scale of ambition of these characters. With the discovery of beings greater than them came a desire to ascend into godhood, to push humanity into its next stage of evolution.
Who's my favorite character in
The only question
Danganronpa?
was how,
Um,
or insight. And this was a question that split the ranks of the Bergen.
the psychotic girl with the glasses.
At the cutscene we started at earlier with Master
I don't
Willem
remember her
and
name.
Lawrence parting ways.
But she seemed to be one of the interesting characters.
I bid you farewell.
I need to go back and play through it again. I will one day.
I know.
I will stream it.
You think now to betray me.
Toko,
From this
yeah.
cutscene,
Yeah, that's her
we can
name.
infer that Lawrence was a high-ranking student of Master
Yeah,
Willem.
it's easy to get
Because
platinum if
firstly,
we didn't have to do
Lawrence
chalices.
refers to Willem as Master, and secondly, Willem clearly regards Lawrence highly enough to call this departure a betrayal.
No, but you will never listen.
You have to get all the weapons too. That's another thing I
Lawrence
need to do is get all the
disagrees.
weapons.
He does not see it as betrayal, and here we come to the heart of what their disagreement is about. Essentially, it boils down to the difference between the two resources in the game. Willem believes man requires insight and knowledge to ascend. Lawrence believes in the power of blood. Lawrence attempts to reassure Willem, telling him he will always fear the old blood, but that this fear will not stop him using it.
I tell you, I will not forget our adage.
We are born of the blood, made men by the blood, undone by the blood.
I didn't realize that guy had such a big part in the story.
Fear the old blood. I must take my leave.
Lawrence
So you have to get all the
leaves
weapons in one
Bergen
playthrough?
scholars, presumably with a small group of rebels, and goes on to found the Healing Church. Willem remains at Bergenworth and
I just want to get all the arcane items. Like I'm doing an arcane run
Return to our story at a
for
later
my
time.
New Game
So while I
Plus.
tell you of what Lawrence
Just
went on to
slowly
do,
leveling up
imagine
arcane.
Willem here in Bergenworth,
Because it's so fun to cast
sitting in his
spells.
rocking chair over the lake, musing on how to acquire insight and
Toko's your
elevate his
second or
thoughts
third favorite
to
female
a higher
character.
plane. Everything
Like the
Lawrence
guy with the
would
red hair
achieve
too.
was based on the knowledge he had come by in Bergenworth. In retrospect, we clearly see why Willem saw Lawrence's departure.
I thought
as a
maybe you just had to
betrayal.
collect them all,
Perhaps Willem
like,
himself
completely.
even planted these ideas in Lawrence's mind. A note in the lecture hall reads, "Master Willem was right. Evolution without courage will be the ruin of our race."
Yeah, I might just start
Lawrence
Danganronpa
had
all over
courage,
again
but it is
and just
likely
stream
that
it.
his courage
If they'll let me
bordered
stream it. I
on
don't know if
arrogance.
PlayStation has
The
it
Bergenworth
blocked or
student
not.
Uniform states, "The Healing Church
I know the
leads
third one is
roots in
blocked
Bergenworth,
completely. You can't stream it,
naturally
just like
grows
Persona
heavily
5.
from its uniform
I couldn't
design.
play that either,
Focus not on
or stream
knowledge
it.
or thought, but on pure pretension would surely
Which
bring
makes sense, I
Master
guess,
Willem
with
to despair, if
Danganronpa,
only
since
he
it's a
would.
visual
So
novel.
Lawrence threw caution to the wind and put his faith in the old blood. Think on human history. Imagine if, in any era, a church was founded that had access to a substance that could cure any illness. Imagine if this church gave it freely to a city, how powerful that city would become, and how powerful the church would become within it. This is exactly what happened in Yharnam. People came far and wide to be treated with the miraculous blood of the gods, and the people of Yharnam put their faith in the Healing Church. In fact, what happened in Yharnam is eerily similar to what happened in the tombs deep below, where the blood was originally found. And as you know, many Chalice dungeons, especially those of Loran, are now
Waste of skin
overrun by
character.
horrific beasts.
It's gonna be difficult because most weapons don't solely.
There are trace remains
They'll
of
run
medical
solely on arcane
procedures
up.
in parts of ailing Loran. Whether
Yeah, that's why I want to do
the
New Game Plus, because I already have the Moonlight Sword, so I'm just yeah, just leveling that one up only. And the spells are so badass.
Is said to have its root in the scourge of the beast. Some have
What I didn't
made
realize is that most of the
extrapolation
enemies that you
Yharnam
fight in this
may be
game
next.
use all this crazy
Yharnam
shit
was next.
that you can
Through
actually use
abuse
too,
of
and
healing blood, the
like
city
weapons
would
and stuff
eventually
and
succumb
spells.
to the scourge of the beast. Until then, though, Lawrence
If I end up playing Volume 3,
managed
I'll
to
end up
grow in power
probably depressed by
with
the end.
miraculous healing properties of their special yet infected blood. Yharnam grows to become
Well, if
a
I do
city
get
of
into it,
worship and fear.
I'll have to
As
finish
you
it.
explore throughout the city, you see the influence of
I'd
the
like to be
church
able to finish it on
everywhere.
stream though,
With Yharnam's
if I'm able to
resources,
stream them.
Lawrence clearly had the power to grow the church beyond what would have been possible at Byrgenwerth. All the while, he continued exploring the labyrinth below Yharnam. The Tomb Prospector set reads, "Attire of the Tomb
Danganronpa's one game
Prospectors
that
who
my
explore
girlfriend
the
loves
old
and I
labyrinth
dislike."
on behalf of the Healing Church. The Healing Church traces its roots
I
to
played, like,
Byrgenwerth and is therefore aware
the
of
first
ruins'
hour or
true
two of the
importance.
first one.
These ruins contain much more than hunter trinkets. Indeed, they
Which I like
hide the
visual
very
novels, though.
secrets of the old great ones, sought after by those with the insight to imagine greatness. On top
At
of
least
this,
some.
Lawrence split the church into multiple branches, each with a different purpose. There was the choir, the school of Mensis, and the workshop. We'll get to these branches as they become appropriate, but the main purpose of the church, at least to the people of Yharnam, was the administration of blood healing. Within the grand cathedral itself lies a note that says, "Heir to the ritual of blood, purveyor of ministration, place your hand upon the altar's sacred covering and inscribe Master Lawrence's adage upon your flesh." Blood
So I never found
ministers
out
would have been
treating.
those who administered the blood healing. How else would the people of Yharnam
I think it's
be
more
so
of a
obsessed with blood?
psychological
In
horror.
Yharnam, they produced more blood than alcohol, as the former is more intoxicating. However, the ministration of blood was likely a means to an end, for the healing church
HP Bloodcraft.
to commune with the great
Uh,
ones.
take-
in hopes
second
of
one has its
ascending
death.
humanity to a higher plane. This task was given to the choir.
So the
Bruce
deaths aren't your
Williams
choices in that
of the Healing
game?
Church, members of the choir,
Or aren't based
are
on your
the highest
choices?
ranking clerics of the Healing Church and scholars who continued the work that began at Byrgenwerth. The eye covering indicates their debt to
This
the
is one of my
teachings
favorite games
Master
of all
William,
time.
even though their paths diverged.
Looking back at
The
it now.
choir, garbed in black and white, with the familiar eye covering, occupied the upper cathedral ward. It seems to have been their job to research and make contact with the Great Ones. The Great Is Chalice became the cornerstone of the choir, the elite delegation of the Healing Church. It was also the first great chalice
Fuck off,
brought back
Norton.
to the
Go
surface since the
fuck on
time of
somewhere.
Byrgenwerth, and allowed the choir to have audience with Ebritus. Ebritus was the left-behind Great One, who came to reside below the Grand Cathedral. We are told that the Grand Cathedral is the birthplace
Yeah.
of the Healing Church's
Don't do so well with that
special blood.
stuff.
And if the church were indeed using the blood of the Great Ones, then who's to
Originally,
say
the
it
first
wasn't
game was going to
Ebritus's
have it,
blood?
so you interact with
The
the.
Augur of Ebritus is one of
Who
the
you interact
secret
with affects
rites
the
of
deaths.
choir, used by the high-ranking
Oh.
members of the Healing Church. Use phantasms.
I thought it was like
vertex known
that.
To be augurs
I thought all
of
three of them were
Great
like
Ones,
that.
to partially summon abandoned Ebritus. One of the few rites that allow one to directly utilize the power of the Great Ones, and evidence that the choir had approached the Eldritch truth. The
So is
Augur of
Ebritus
Ebritus
known
an
as a
arcane
kin?
method of fighting that was actually shared with the second subsection of the Healing Church, the School of Mensis. The upper echelons of the Healing Church are formed by the School of Mensis, based in the Unseen Village. This brings us to our next important character, Mikolash, who was likely the head of the School of Mensis. The School of Mensis was, as the name implies, a place of learning, research, and experimentation for the Healing Church. Their student set reads, "The Healing Church has its roots in Byrgenwerth, and naturally borrows heavily from
Danganronpa
its
distrust.
design. The school was based below Yharnam, in a place called Yahagul.
She's known as
the
Kin, but
Unseen
in terms
Village.
of lore, she's
Clearly,
not.
the work of Mensis was intended
Huh.
to be kept a secret from the people of Yharnam. In fact, as time went on, the school increasingly seems to have been working alone, even separately from the Healing Church itself. The Yahagul attire tells us, the hunters of Yahagul answer to the village's founders, the School of Mensis. Hunters in name only, these kidnappers blend into the night wearing this attire. These were not true hunters. That title was saved for the third subsection of the Healing Church, the Hunters of the Workshop.
Yeah, she's a
These
great one that
evil
got left
warriors
behind
of
by
the
the
church
others. That's right.
appeared as the scourge of the beast began to show in Yharnam. The workshop hunters served under Gurman, the first hunter, who you're all familiar with. The hunter attire reads, one of the standard articles of hunter attire fashioned at the workshop, a fine piece of hunter attire that provides stable
Shelby, I have a new
defense to
Discord
anyone
now if you want to
facing
join it
Yharnam's
too.
beastly threat, allows one to stalk beasts unannounced by cover of night. It's possible the unannounced part of that sentence is to do with killing beasts without them noticing you, But it
It's
could also be
in the
because
description of
workshop
any
was a
other video
secret institution.
I have on here.
The original workshop is located in a very hard to find part of Cathedral Ward, and think about it, you don't want the townsfolk believing that the blood is turning them into beasts. When that information is floating around, you want to avoid panic at all costs. So the hunters hunted beasts under the cover of night, but the hunters and the beastly scourge couldn't stay a secret forever. In what would come to be called Old Yharnam, a new disease appeared. It was called Ashen Blood.
Oh yeah.
Call it a disease,
I
but the
forgot to
small
tell you too.
medicinal tablets used to treat it actually counteract poison.
Yeah, I haven't put it in the description of this one yet. I usually just put it in after they go up.
Baffling sickness that ravaged Old Yharnam long
But yeah,
ago.
it's in all of them.
These tablets only provide short-term relief. The Ashen Blood ailment eventually triggered the spread of the beastly scourge. Think about that. We know that the old blood heals every illness. We know that the old blood causes the beastly scourge, and we now know that the Ashen Blood caused the beastly scourge to spread.
This game really makes you want
In
to play the
short,
other
It
ones,
seems like people were infected with the Ashen
like the Dark
Blood,
Souls,
and the medicine that they had only provided
Neo,
short-term relief,
and
they
especially
were forced
Sekiro.
to imbibe the old blood instead. It's even possible that the Healing Church used this Ashen Blood to gain power, swooping in with this miracle cure and liberating the people from the Ashen Blood disease. Since Ashen Blood seems poisonous in nature, perhaps the Church even poisoned the populace just for that excuse to use the old blood, because that excuse to get the populace to believe.
Wait, so the Healing Church initial intentions were to create like a godlike creature, right? And they failed like multiple times, which in turn created the one reborn and the living failures. Right? What's it? They wanted to become famous. Huh.
Believe in you, that would have been so powerful. But whatever the case, the beastly scourge was triggered overwhelmingly in Old Yharnam. We know that much, to the point where they actually had to burn it down and cordon off Old Yharnam from the rest of the city.
I know he hasn't mentioned Orphan yet. The church is 3 separate groups. The choir group were all about trying to find out how to create or become great ones. Oh, okay. So it was the choir. It's still a part of the church. He hasn't really talked about Orphan yet. But so Orphan or Kos just washed up on the beach and plagued like everyone. Biggest part, arguably. Yeah. Yeah, Orphan was probably the biggest thing in the game. He's the one that started it all. But how did he... He gets into the lore of Orphan and his playthrough of the DLC. Oh, okay.
The red moon hangs low, and beasts rule the streets. Are we left no other choice than to burn it all to cinders? With this, the hunt became known to all. Perhaps the church feared an uprising from the people of Yharnam, for a note in central Yharnam reads, "When the hunt began, the healing church left us, blocking the great bridge to Cathedral Ward as Old Yharnam burned to the ground that moonlit night." As a result, Gurman's workshop was sealed and closed. With the scourge of the beast known to all, perhaps there was no need for secrecy anymore. The Saw Hunter badge comes to read, "Badge crafted long ago at the workshop, attests to one's prowess as a hunter of beasts. The workshop is gone, and no group recognizes this meaningless badge." At this point, the church retreats. They block themselves off in Upper
What exactly are the
Cathedral
messengers
and
supposed
come
to
up with
be?
a new strategy for dealing with the scourge of the beasts that is spreading throughout Yharnam. Eventually, the workshop hunters would disband, and the church founded the Church Hunter Workshop in its place. Ludwig was the chief hunter of the Healing Church, which consisted of hunters garbed in black and white. The Black Church
So it was
Hunters
just
are
something initially they came up
most
with,
healing church hunters are elementary
but never went
doctors who
fully
understand
through
the
with it.
importance of early prevention of the scourge, achieved by disposing of victims, even
That
potential
would be,
victims.
I think that would have been
before
better if
the
they did it
signs
like
of
that.
sickness manifest themselves. Their black attire
Not really a
symbolizes
playthrough, but he goes through
fear
each part in
and
high
that
detail, or if it
peculiar
made it
amount of madness.
so that the
Black
hunters
Church
who would
Hunter's
go
job
mad
was
with
clear.
Bloodlust get sucked into the
Remove
nightmare
any
forever.
sign of the scourge of the beast, even if it hasn't
And there's nothing on
manifested
the
itself yet.
messengers.
The fear that it inspired in the citizens shows most in Upper Cathedral Ward are deathly afraid of the church. The white church hunters' jobs were a bit different. These doctors are superiors to the black preventative hunters and specialists in experimentally backed blood ministration and the scourge of the beast. They believe that medicine is not a means of treatment, but rather a method of research, and that some knowledge can only be attained by exposing oneself to sickness. Their experimentation might explain the monstrously large church giants who would have been particularly useful in the fight against the beasts. Ludwig's greatsword exhibits
It was too
several
violent.
departures from the workshop's design, suggesting
Damn.
that the church anticipated much larger, inhuman beasts. On top of this, Ludwig took a much more overt approach to beast hunting. Nightly, he would embark upon Central
It is
Yarn
rated M
across the
still,
Great
though,
Bridge
isn't it?
to fight back against the beasts. But he was not alone.
'Cause they
The
do curse a
population of
lot.
Central Yarnum joined the hunt as well, swelling the ranks of the hunters. Ludwig, the first hunter of the Healing Church, once recruited Yarnumites to serve as hunters. This hunter's attire was made for new recruits and has excellent straightforward defense, but not nearly enough to allow an ordinary man to stand any real chance against the beasts. It sounds like a very clever move, as it probably stopped the populace blaming the church and likely formed more of a us versus them mentality.
Huh.
Meanwhile, in Bergenworth, Master Willem had an epiphany. We are thinking on the basest of planes. What we need are more eyes. Willem took this very literally. The remaining students of Bergenworth appear to have been transformed into multi-eyed, fly-like creatures, and more
Yeah.
importantly, Willem himself found an umbilical cord.
Because as you progress through the game, the enemy mobs is you start noticing more eyes on them, such as the pigs in Nightmare Mensis. They have multiple eyes as well, and those creatures in Bergenworth. Ludwig is a fantastic part of the lore, basically leading to all the huntsmen wandering around Yarnum. The complete name of the character that the victim was in the beta, but it starts with a K. Huh. So, I'm still a little
Of a
confused.
great
Hold on.
which was a
Trying
very
to.
significant and powerful artifact. Provost Willem sought the cord in order to elevate his being and thoughts to those of a great one by lining his brain with eyes, the only choice he knew if man were ever to match their greatness, used to gain insight and
So that's why he points you off to the. Because see, when I went to fight Rom, I was being chased off, and my last thing to do was just jump into the water, which I accidentally did, and so I ended up fighting Rom after that. Instead of dying, I thought I was dead. I had like a hunter and those guys chasing after me, so I ended up jumping off to the water. But so he knew how to get to Rom. Master Willem knew like everything, or at least that.
so they say, eyes on the inside, although no one remembers what that truly entails. It's difficult to know exactly how Willem came across or created an umbilical cord, so we'll have to go into that in another video.
Oh, not only lore-wise, he has the best fucking sound, the best fight theme in the entire game. I've been listening to his fight theme on repeat for like past few days now. Monokuma was originally human that only had the skin of half his body. Oh, that would have been terrifying. I'm glad they went with the bear thing, the whole teddy bear thing, instead of a human.
Just know that he has one for now. When we encounter Willem, he directs us to the Great Lake. The power of great bodies of water is actually referenced in a few runes. Great volumes of water serve as a bulwark guarding sleep, and an augur of the eldritch truth. Overcome this hindrance, and seek what is yours. The lake, and what lies within it, hides the truth. Rom, the Bergenworth spider, lies within, and there's a lot we don't know about her, But I'll tell you what we do know. The Byrgenwerth spider hides all manner of rituals and keeps our lost master from us. A terrible shame. The spider is certain to reveal nothing.
Oh, and also, when you go to fight Abridas, you see that she's like praying to a statue of what looks like to be Rom as well.
For true enlightenment
At the
need
altar of
not be
despair.
shared. I believe this is what the vacuous part of Rom's name refers to. This creature is somehow hiding the true nature of the world, and when you defeat it, you don't need insight to see the world for what it truly is. The night moves forward, the blood moon descends, and after killing Rom, we are finally granted access to what remains of Yahar'gul.
Yeah, I know, right? That's a her.
The School of Mensis. The School of Mensis appears to have grown apart.
Which I guess
from the Healing
Spider
Church
Queen,
and
something
the
like that.
choir. There is little information on Mikolash and his school, but we can prove that there was a split. Firstly,
One of the most
Mikolash
terrifying
uses the Order
bosses.
of Abritus, a secret rite of the choir shared among the high-ranking members of the Healing Church. This suggests he was trusted with this information and was once a sane member of the church. To prove that there was a split between the Healing Church's choir and the school, we note clear signs of distrust and fighting between the groups. Imprisoned inside Yahar'gul is the corpse of a member of the choir. And inside the Nightmare of Mensis, we find who the official guide calls Edgar, Choir Intelligence. Clearly, the choir was suspicious of what was going on in Yahar'gul with the School of Mensis, and based on what we find there in Yahar'gul, it seems the choir had good reason to be. The School of Mensis were attempting to commune with the Great Ones, and they succeeded, as Willem did.
Is Amygdala a great one? And why are there so many Amygdalas?
They found
The next DLC fighter for Smash Ultimate? Sub-Zero. I want Sub-Zero in. It's insane to think that everything in this game, save Abritas, Murgo's Wet Nurse, and Moon Presence were once human. Yeah, I know. Like, literally everything. Amygdala is a great one. Yeah, I want Sub-Zero in Smash. Or Gurman. I can see the trailer now. Maybe like Gurman joins the hunt. The annoying dog from Undertale has a chance. I mean, it's possible. They've been working with Toby Fox and Nintendo. They got Deltarune on the Switch now. Or someone. Sans? I don't know. If it would be a character, I think it would be Sans. I don't know. That's probably just a crazy theory. I mean, one you fought in the nightmare is the real one. Is my theory. Oh, the rest have hollow heads. See, when I fought Amygdala in the nightmare, I thought that they would all disappear, like from Yahar'gul, and so I think there's something like shells, augers. Annoying dog noise, the competition. Put Gurman in Smash.
an umbilical cord.
Gurman
We
joins the
find 4
hunt.
cords in the game that allow contact with the Great Ones, and Mikolash had one. This cord granted Mensis audience with Murgo, but resulted in the stillbirth of their brains. As we know, most
That'd
Great
be
Ones reside
crazy,
in the
dude.
Nightmare realm, and whatever ritual they performed with this cord ripped Mensis and its students into
Just
a nightmare.
fucking
That's why you
smashed
find the
everyone with
lecture
it
hall
with his
in the
scythe.
Nightmare, and that's why there's hundreds of dead students throughout Yahar'gul, all wearing the cage that appears to have delivered them to their harrowing nightmare. Mikolash's corpse provides a gateway into the nightmare, and we find him here, clearly insane, wandering the halls. Mikolash believes that it's possible to ascend towards becoming a Great One, citing Rom as his example. Rom, however, is not fully developed, rather she has the blood of their kin. And let's just go back to Rom for a second. When you defeat Rom, Queen Yharnam appears. She's
Yeah.
a Tremerian woman who has clearly suffered a childbirth gone horribly
Then you
wrong.
see her again
She
in
is linked to
Mensis.
the nightmare of Mensis, to the ritual that Rom was hiding, and she appears in this nightmare, looking up towards Murgo's loft, where Murgo and his wet nurse reside. Queen Yharnam hails from the Tumerian civilization that was in power long ago, and she was blessed with a child of the Great Ones. From the way she appears outside Murgo's loft,
Yeah, other
it
than
is
the
clear
dogs,
that her
and
consciousness,
crows, and other
her
animals,
spirit,
everything used to
was
be
pulled
human.
into this nightmare.
Some still
as
are,
well.
yeah.
Even when you
Like
encounter
the villagers.
Yharnam's real self,
The
in
villagers still
Tumerian
think they're
tombs,
human, don't they?
Baby Murgo screams whenever you hit her, and even when you kill Yharnam in the tombs, it is clear that she is not actually dead, but her horrific consciousness is only asleep, and it stirs in unsettling motion.
They still think they're
Her
human.
consciousness seems to be
'cause they're like
showing up
burning
here in
beasts.
nightmare, completely
And they're
separate
calling
from
you
her
a
physical
beast.
form. The same thing is happening with you.
Not to
with
realize,
Mikolash,
not to,
with the
they don't
Great
realize
Ones
they're
in the
actually
nightmare
turning
with
too.
You all exist in this nightmare that Mensis created. So your next question is, which Great One impregnated Yharnam with Murgo all those years ago? I believe it is formless Erden. The Great One Erden, lacking form, exists only in voice. To cite the fastest evidence to present, there's nothing in the cradle after you defeat Murgo, and Murgo himself, the child, has no form. Also, his cries are heard throughout your adventure. He exists everywhere. Additionally, Murgo's wet nurse has no form under those robes, and also, the women that are impregnated when this blood moon descends are all related to Erden, but we'll get to that in another video. When you defeat Murgo's wet nurse, you get a message unlike any other that you've received thus far.
Sumerians.
Instead of praise,
Some sort of superhuman
you get
race.
Nightmare slain.
Surprising
You
all over the
defeated
place.
A true great one.
Not just in the
It's elevated
chalices.
its consciousness to the nightmare realm, and the game is nearing its end. However, all of this should make you think. The nightmare of Mensis isn't the only dream world I've set foot in, is it? This entire time, I've actually been journeying out from the hunter's dream, guided by lanterns that led me to Murgo and her wet nurse, all of which is made possible by Gurman and his doll. Travel to the hunter's workshop in the waking world and seek the truth. Every great one loses its child and then yearns for a surrogate. The third umbilical cord precipitated the encounter with the pale moon, which beckoned the hunters and conceived the hunter's dream. Next to the cord is the unanimated doll. Take a hairpin from this real doll and then pass it along to the doll in the dream.
And his
With
strength.
the hairpin, she sheds a single tear,
He's fucking
which
powerful.
reads, created from the shining silver doll tear, this blood gem is a quiet yet unfaltering friend that continually restores HP.
He's like one of the hardest
life
bosses in the
essence of a
game.
hunter. Perhaps this doll's creator
More difficult
had
than
wished for
the-
such a friend,
the-
be it in vain. It's
most of
clear
the
that
mandatory
Gurman
bosses.
called upon the Great Ones using an umbilical cord, similar to the manner in which Mikolash did. The Great Ones that inhabit the nightmare are sympathetic in spirit and often answer when called upon. Gurman, lonely and lacking purpose after the church had no more need for his workshop,
Yeah, he's a
must have
badass.
called upon the Great Ones. A Great One responded, the pale moon presence, and imprisoned Gurman within the dream. For while Gurman sleeps, he utters this rare piece of dialogue that clearly shows he does not want to be here.
Oh, Lawrence, Master Willem, somebody help me. Unshackle me, please. Anybody. I've had enough of this dream.
What I learned through listening back to Garmin's theme, his fight theme, and reading some of the comments on YouTube. And what I learned is that you and Gurman both are fighting to protect each other. And you like, 'cause he doesn't want you to be in his position, so he's trying to kill you, so you can, return and live happiness. But you're trying to save him by killing him to free him. And like, that's just one of the coolest things they could have done for the ending.
The night blocks all sight. Oh, somebody, please.
Like, that makes that fight like a
Purpose
10
was the dream
times
conceived. Well, the doll tells us that
more
countless hunters
intense.
have passed through here, and all of the graves tell us that as well. And Eileen and Jura both have dialogue that is testament to that fact. They talk about how they've been through this dream before as well. So why are hunters being sent through this dream, unable to pass away, just forced to go out into the world and kill beasts? It becomes clearer when you kill Murgo's wet nurse. You return to the hunter's workshop burning down, the dream's purpose fulfilled. Ergo, the purpose of your dream and your hunt appears to have been to slay a great one. 3 endings are presented to you. The first. Gurman offers you a way out of the dream. He asks you to accept your death, for if you do, then you'll awaken in the waking world of Yharnam, and your consciousness will be no longer linked to the dream. The
He
trophy
straight up
for this
decapitates
ending
you.
reads, "You lived through the hunt and saw another day."
Moon
The
Presence
second
is a tough
option
one
is
for
to
me
reject
because I love him in Boston
He
terms.
suggests that to
Design
do
and
so
combat, but
must
his
be a
health bar is from the
decision
lowest in the
caused
game.
by madness, and he pits his will against yours.
Yeah,
to
Gurman's
forcibly remove
theme
you
is so
from the
sad,
dream.
dude.
All the while, he
And
entreats you to
his
accept
story
your
is so
death
sad.
and be freed from this dream. If you overpower Gurman, we meet with the Moon Presence, the being that appears to have conceived this nightmare.
But yeah,
Just
Moon
like
Presence is one of the
Moon
most
Logo
underwhelming
concept,
bosses in the
it
game.
embraces you, and in the cutscene to follow, we see ourselves performing the same role that Gurman did, hosting the dream, likely a slave to the Moon Presence, or perhaps its surrogate child, guiding hunters throughout this dream in an effort to
So
slay
you
other
take
great
one.
ones.
Whoa, huh? So if you kill Gurman and don't use the umbilical cords, you essentially take his place instead of becoming a great one yourself. What the fuck? I didn't know that. Cause I only did the one ending, the true ending, where you get to live through a decapitation. Yeah, that's a good ending too. Although poor old Gurman is caught, still stuck in there. Yeah, if you don't get the cord, you take his place, as he thought would happen when you fought him. That's why he fights you. So yeah, he doesn't know that you're going to become a great one too. Wow, that's fucking insane. I'm glad I streamed this game because I never would have done that without people telling me.
The trophy for this ending reads, "Captivated by the Moon Presence, you pledge to watch over the hunter's dream." There's one key thing you need to remember. The Great Ones are a race, but they're a race unlike any other. Each Great One is entirely unique, and they do not necessarily work together. In fact, from the existence of the dream, I'm almost inclined to believe that the Moon Presence is hostile towards other Great Ones. In the third and final ending, you consume 3 umbilical cords and resist the will of the Moon Presence. You overpower it, and in the cutscene to follow, the doll coddles the being you have become. You have ascended, truly, as few have before you. The trophy description states, "You became an infant Great One, lifting humanity into its next childhood." So after the end of all this, you probably still have questions. What is pale blood? Why does the Moon Presence guide hunters towards killing beasts and Great Ones? Which ending is the good ending? For all this and more, you need to be subscribed to the channel. I'll have another video out soon analysing the endings, and from here on out, the channel should split into 3 main parts. There's going to be the lore hunting series, where we focus on one aspect of the lore and really figure it out. There's going to be
So
Prepare to
yeah,
Cry,
more
which
parts.
is my favourite series. It's a series where
Yeah.
I tell the story of a character within Bloodborne's universe.
Yeah, you never become a monster
And
or
there's going to
saver
be things
based
you
on
missed, which
how you look
are
at
short,
it. It
enjoyable
doesn't really tell you.
episodes that
Yeah.
showcase an area of the game and tell you everything that you missed within it. The criteria
I mean, it'd be
these
cool
episodes is
if you
generally,
became a great
if I
one,
find
but you
something
became
I
a
think I missed or something I
a
did
better
miss,
great one,
then I included in that
a
episode.
greater one.
So those are the 3 main series we're going to have.
That actually did
There's also going
good.
to be other videos, of course, but those are the 3 main series. I'm still thinking of doing a video on Scholar of the First
He only did a
Sin.
few
Still
videos
haven't
about
played
lore,
that.
sadly.
But thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Yeah, you have the power to end the curse. Shit. Alright, what's next? I'm just gonna look up the dude's name, see what other ones he had. Oh, the videos were pre-DLC? Which one was the one that did have the DLC? 15 interesting insights. Eileen the Crow. Father gas going. So is this the lore one?
Today's students need balance in work, life, and school. To give you the type
Yeah,
of
the other
learning
one will be
experience you
okay.
need, DeVry offers a flexible approach. So
Fuck off.
Hey, what's up guys, and welcome to the Old Hunters DLC. It's finally here. I think I've played through about a quarter of it so far, and I just want to share that hunt with you. New weapons, new bosses, new NPCs, and hopefully a new understanding.
The DLC
of
was
hunters
one
who
of
were
the
around
smaller
when the
problems I
hunt
had
first
with the
began.
game.
So let's hunt through it all
So
together.
it's both a run through and a
let's see
lore
what we can
video.
find. Defeat Vicar Amelia and the
Because the DLC kind of overshadowed everything that happened, like, at the end of Nightmare Menses. Like, it was just nothing in comparison to it. As far as difficulty-wise. I mean, the fights were cool, but, you know... But I feel like the difficulty in the DLC was just unmatched to that of the main story. Just in the boss fights, that is.
messengers will bring you two items. First, the eye of a blood-drunk hunter. The pupil has collapsed here, which indicates the onset of the scourge of beasts. A hunter who goes drunk with blood.
Oh yeah,
is
so you
said
can't
to
beat the
be
wet
taken
nurse
by
and then
the
go to
hunter's
play the DLC.
nightmare, destined to wander forever, engaged in an endless
The sunrise
nightmarish
ending.
hunt.
Well, the German fight was
No
pretty
hunter
intense.
Can escape this fate, apparently.
It wasn't. He wasn't no
The
pushover
second
at all.
item is the old hunter bell.
But
Countless
just not as hard
hunters
as like
have passed through
Ludwig
the
or
dream, but
Lawrence
cannot
or
forget
Orphan.
The thrill of the hunt.
Nowhere
The
near.
messengers relay these thoughts, and if you ring the bell by their side, then the hunters are sure to listen, for the night of the hunt is long and unchanging, and this bell closes the gap between worlds. With these items in your inventory, the amygdala outside Cathedral Ward will take you to the old hunter's nightmare, but unlike the old hunters before us, we go there as a hunter who has not completely succumbed to bloodlust. That's not what sucked us in. What sucked us in was this creature that we know is capable of teleporting you.
Cursed the fiends, their children too, and their children forever true.
If there's an answer for that dialogue, I haven't found it yet. I don't know who it belongs to. Who is this woman to place a curse upon people? And what curse is she placing?
Yeah, because that's
We
not
should remember
Amygdala's
this for
real
another
voice.
episode. We arrive in a distorted version of Cathedral Ward and its surroundings. And maybe distorted is the wrong word, though. To me, this area strikes me as badly remembered. Imagine if you had to construct.
Sometimes
a
you fight
place
Gurren
from
because he's
memory.
one of the best bosses.
You wouldn't get it 100%
My favorite,
correct, would you? And to me, I kind of like to think
him and
that
Ludwig,
whoever
yeah.
hosts this nightmare had
He's one of the
trouble
most fun boss
remembering
fights in the
towers
game.
in the distance, so the towers appear tilted and illogical, and gaps in memory are replaced by these rocky hills where there should be man-made paths.
Focusing on the
instead.
mandatory stuff, sadly.
But this
Having
world,
to
this
ignore my favorite
nightmare,
boss for the
it's
sake of not
inhabited
making the moon
just like all
presence
the
even
others were.
more of a pushover.
Nikolash's nightmare
Yeah.
was inhabited by the puppets that he pulled into the nightmare with him, and also by random hunters who made their way in as well. The geography might be a reconstruction from somebody's memory, but the people within it aren't. This nightmare is full of old hunters, some of the first people to ever fight against the beasts in the first hunts that ever happened. Hunters who, according to the Eye, lost themselves to bloodlust and
yeah.
were pulled into a nightmare where the hunt never ends. And this shows in the gameplay. The hunters and the beasts here are constantly fighting one another, and you can use that to your advantage. The beasts are weak compared to the hunters, but there are so many, so I like to take out the hunters while they're distracted with the beasts, and once you're done with the hunters, you can equip a torch and deal with the beasts.
Sounds a lot like
Really
Maria the
attack.
doll.
All of these hunters are wielding weapons.
Might be the same voice
wearing a
actor.
garb that isn't seen in modern
But it's
day
the same
Yarn.
character.
You'll
That's
find
the main
pieces
thing.
of their equipment throughout the early level, and the old hunter garb in particular is funny. Its description details the superstitions of the first hunters, how some hunters believed that the beastly plague.
Yeah, and that's
crept
weird
up
that,
the right leg,
German
so they wrapped
made
a bit
this
of
doll
felt around the right leg of their trousers. Some
from
thought that
Maria,
bits of
right?
metal on their gloves could ward away the beast blood, and you get the picture. They were a superstitious bunch back then. The chest piece tells us that one day the hunters disappeared.
Like Maria like died or
With
something,
blood,
and
they
then
would pass
he
on to the
in like
nightmare
grievance
every
he made the
last one
doll
of them. I
for
wonder
her,
what's pulling them in.
or of her.
Regardless, these hunters were around in the first days of the hunt, and this nightmare contains people and the places that existed when the hunt first began, and I really think that inside it we'll find the answer.
Which
to
makes
what
sense. She
started
despises
the
what
hunt
was done by the
and
hunters,
why.
throwing her weapon away and
On this
committing
little
suicide
crop
and
of
shame.
land, we find our first
Yeah,
new
yeah,
weapon,
that's it, because
which
she
is
throws her weapon down the
beast
well
cutter.
in
It's
Hamlet.
like a crude, more brutal version of the threaded cane.
You have to go through that bullshit fight to get it, which I still haven't done.
Inelegant, which suggests that the earliest hunts were clumsy and bloody and brutal, which certainly wouldn't have helped these hunters resist the bloodshed. Perhaps the refinement of weapons wasn't just so you could deal with beasts efficiently, it would be so you could deal with them more cleanly. Anyway, the world here is full of twin bloodstone and later bloodstone chunks as well, so if you want to choose a new weapon to upgrade, it could easily be one of these you find in the early DLC. And
she
the
hates blood
DLC
magic,
continuously
but she wants to hide the
bombards
truth
with
from
new
you, and
weapons,
she even uses
which
blood
I
magic to
really
try and
like.
stop you,
It's not like
sacrificing
the
her
core
honor.
game that gives you all the cool weapons
Wow.
at the very end. There are some good weapons
That makes that fight even
start
more
this
tragic
DLC,
too.
and you find a new one what feels
She's breaking
like
her code of honor
every
just
15
to
minutes or so.
stop
So far,
you.
most of my enemies have been humanoid, not beasts or monsters, so as a result I definitely recommend the blunderbuss over something like the pistol. I've always found that the pistol misses too much against human enemies, like you can't riposte them very well, so you might want to go with the blunderbuss, and I find the blunderbuss is better at taking out all the hunters. And if I'm making this look easy, it's because I've been through here before. I accidentally played through all of this stage on a New Game Plus character, and holy shit, this area in New Game Plus is tough. Enemies have so many
Yes,
more hit points.
it is.
I actually got up to the first boss on my New Game Plus character.
I thought I was ready for this at like level
Completely forgot that
50.
I was in New Game Plus.
I was
The
very
first boss
wrong.
really reminded me of that. I still haven't
Alright,
beaten
man, see ya.
the first boss on my New Game Plus character, and I was going to show you guys that playthrough, but my PC decided to corrupt the footage instead. So this character, who's not in New Game Plus, is so much easier.
Yeah, this place
by
was
comparison.
insane.
My recommendation to you guys is that if you have a New Game Plus character, and if it's below level 60, like mine was, don't expect to get past the first boss without a hell of a fight. Choose your character wisely. And look, it's the Cleric Beast. Here comes a boss fight, right? Any second now. Okay, maybe it starts when I pick up the item? No? No? Okay then. Maybe it starts when I leave. No, it doesn't. Didn't expect that. Maybe later? Anyway, the eye pendant the Cleric Beast was holding reads, "Unlocks the surgery altar." The next weapon we find is the boom hammer, and it's waiting for you in front of this old guy. Who is the guy that shoots you when you pick up the item in front of him? I'm sure you all remember that trap. I was like, you're not gonna fool me again. Oh, this is different.
Straight from the Breaking Bad
This
scene.
weapon reads, "Crush the beast."
I think I had a big yell during that.
The brute simplicity of the boom hammer was favoured by hunters with an acute distaste for beasts. This was crafted by the Powder Keg Hunters, one of the first hunter groups, and a lot of descriptions do reference these groups. Bloodborne already has a fairly straightforward timeline. It's not like Dark Souls, which spans hundreds or even thousands of years. Bloodborne's timeline seems like it happens within a century or so, in my opinion. So this DLC answers a lot of questions about the progression through all the different hunter groups and their history, and we even learn that there is a group that came before the Powder Keg Hunters. And it's this beastly enemy we fight next that gives us this information. He has this enhanced
he's
beasthood
the only
that
one in
I'm
the
still
game.
yet to learn about. He has a way bigger moveset than the beast claws should give you. I think it's a rune that lets you get into the beast form he's in. Anyway, he's where the central Yharnam lamp would be, where Gilbert would be if this was the real world, and he drops the firing hammer badge, which I believe unlocks the timed Molotov cocktails that you saw being thrown around before,
Yeah.
and also the piercing rifle, which was, and I quote, developed by the Otto workshop, which was the workshop that came before the Powder Keg Hunter workshop.
You're a hunter with your sanity, aren't you? Must have taken a wrong turn then, eh? Well, we're more alike than you think. This is the hunter's nightmare. where hunters end up when drunk with blood. You've seen them before. Aimless, wandering hunters slavering like beasts. This is what the four fools have to look forward to. So, don't be brash. Turn back before it's too late. Unless you've something of an interest in nightmares. Yes, as it should be. Hunt your beasts.
You want to do a character called Clockwork
no
Beast?
more on the secrets of the night. That is the very best.
Using the
a hunter
beast
can
claws
do.
you get. Oh yeah,
Just don't let
I never tried those out.
intoxicate you.
I think I have them.
You can say no here. You can say, I'm not interested in night.
There's so many interesting
But
weapons in
then
this
you can
game though. It
also
makes you want to
talk
play
him
through like
again
100
to
times
give
and use every
what
single
is
one of them.
supposedly the right answer, which is apparently
Like the big
yes,
bloody
I am
Morning
interested
Star
in
weapon
nightmares,
looks
because
fucking
he stops
awesome.
talking to you after you say
It's
yes.
so weird, but it's so cool.
What now? Oh, take my word and turn back before it's too late.
And the combos that you could pull off with
Yes, I suppose
Maria's
you've
weapon.
taken an interest in nightmares.
It's fucking crazy.
Oh yes, I see. You sense a secret within the nightmare and cannot bear to leave it be. As if the spirit of Bergenworth lives on within you. Such inquisitive hunters will relish the nightmare. But beware. Secrets are secrets for a reason. And some do not wish to see them uncovered.
Yeah.
Especially when the secrets are particularly unseemly.
This guy
Reculio,
will appear
that's what
later,
it's called.
And he tells us to carry on further into the nightmare, but he warns us that
Yeah,
some
that's one of,
secrets
like,
aren't
most-
meant to be found. Secret type.
Like
Down the Blood River is the Gatling gun hunter who attacks
the
you
combo
in the pitch
heavy
black
weapon in the
with this
game.
brutal weapon that will stun lock you if you stand anywhere near him. I found the best way was to rotate around this rock until he takes a break from firing, then you get a few hits in and you rinse and repeat. His gun can't fire forever, so start your assault on him as soon as it stops firing. You actually get the Gatling gun for defeating him.
Where did you pick up the
Requires blood-tinged
binocular at?
So
I
I'm
could
going
not
to
find
bet
it
that
anywhere.
blood-tinged strength builds are going to be a thing now. That weapon is a beast. I really
Oh yeah, all the
recommend
voice
using
actors in
the
this game are
hand lantern
incredible.
in here. Further on, you have to fight a small bloodletting beast, and you'll actually want to see what you're shooting at because it's important to counter this guy with a gun in your left hand. This room holds the amygdalan arm, a gruesome little trick weapon that you can use as a short hammer or a
Yeah, the
sinewy
accents are
scythe
pulled off,
thing,
like,
where one of the
incredibly.
rings just flows around with the ligament attached to it. From the
That's
sword,
another
you can
badass
equip the
weapon.
weapons.
Amygdalan
The
arm.
next two weapons is the Beast Hunter's Safe, which is way better
It's
than
like-
I thought it would
it feels
be.
like it's
It just
alive.
looks like a short saw cleaver, but its simplest attacks include a lot of little dashes, and everyone knows how important it is in Souls games to quickly close distances. It's a really underestimated weapon, I think. The next weapon is the Whirligig Saw. I
That's
love it.
another
Just
one.
Look at how you can grind down an enemy by holding L2. This weapon belongs to Valter, the Beast Eater, leader of the League.
It's crazy.
And he's the old hunter you meet in the
And the
Forbidden
fucking
Woods
wheel, too.
If you went and
The
joined
wheel
the
weapon.
League when patch 1.07 hit. The League is a co-op covenant.
See
and
the
I'm
first
going
church
to use
giant?
this
Go to the
guy
left,
help me in my boss
past where
fight
he was in the
because
cathedral.
I found the boss
Or
fight
there's
really tough.
2
I
brick
haven't
trolls and a
had
shit
much
ton of
sleep,
crows.
So maybe I'm just
Oh,
not fighting
okay.
very well. But it felt good summoning this guy. This DLC is called The Old Hunters, after all. I might as well summon one of them, right? It was nice feeling like I had a teammate against this guy. So, let's fight that next boss, shall we?
Yeah, I had Henriette with me to help me fight this asshole.
Help us.
Unsightly beast. One of the best boss fight music songs in the game. Just one of the best theme in the game right there. It's so heavy. It's so metal. There's a little ledge there past them. Going on that ledge, you will find it hidden behind something. Okay. Yeah, seriously.
I'm not going to talk too much about the lore in these videos, but just quickly, Ludwig was originally
So much
the first
good
hunter
violin
of the
music in
Healing
this game.
Church, a cleric who became one of the most gruesome beasts. In the first phase of the fight, it's vitally important that you kind of become familiar with his moveset, and most importantly, I think you have to learn where it's safe to hit him and where it's safe to heal. I find the best place to be attacking is his left
God,
side.
he's not doing anything
Because
to
if
him.
you get behind him, he'll bucket you like a horse. If you get under him, he'll stamp around and likely kill you.
He's
if you
eating
get
all
in
this.
front of him, he'll
He's
do
eating
these
every
quick little
attack.
slashes that are hard to predict and dodge.
He's so damn intimidating. He's
Inevitably,
lying.
you do have to dodge
He
through
talks
these
about them with the
front-facing
lure.
dashes, and that's what's so tough.
He
One
is
of these
intimidating,
dashes
dude.
has a really long wind-up that will catch you if you dodge too early.
The bosses in the
but you
DLC are
have to
just
dodge
all over
early
the
against
place.
most of his dashes because they will combo you if you just take the hit.
Like Ludwig
So,
and
it's a
Orphan
tough
are just
fight
so damn
because of that.
aggressive.
You can't dodge too early and you can't
They're
dodge
so
too late.
aggressive.
Your reflexes have to be on point if you're soloing this guy, which is why I brought Walter in. I decided that this companion hunter was going to be my win condition. He's fantastic for distracting Ludwig.
Yeah, he's
but
better than
he only
Henriette.
has a limited amount of blood vessels, so once he's healed like 5 times, he'll stop healing and the boss will kill him and you'll be in trouble. So, like I said, my win condition was to keep him alive. I brought the choir bell along with me, and I kept
Yeah,
healing
definitely the most
Walter whenever he
intimidating.
got low.
Just this, like,
So
hideous
basically, I was
face.
keeping my tank alive. I'd never fought
It's
a
such a
fight like
nightmare.
that in Bloodborne before,
Nightmarish
so
face.
This was really fun for me, and I really wanted this NPC for phase
Yeah,
2 of
Orphan's
this
just a
fight.
skinny, like, humanoid thing. A skinny alien, like, compared to this big giant horse fucking beast.
My true mentor.
This cutscene is so fucking cool too.
My guiding moonlight.
Yeah, it's size too.
This is awesome. That music transition is so seamless and epic. All of a sudden, Moonlight Greatsword, out of nowhere. But if you did look closely, you would have noticed that Ludwig actually had this Moonlight Greatsword strapped to his back all along. It's fairly easy to dodge the swipes from this Greatsword. If he starts
God,
doing
this part is
slam
just so
attacks, you
fucking
dodge
epic.
early, and if he starts swiping, you dodge through the attacks. And during this fight, you'll
A
have
new health
2
bar.
chances to
Oh
riposte
god.
to perform visceral attacks.
Hell no, that would
It
be
took me a while to
insane.
figure out where to perform the visceral attack, but eventually I realized you have to go right up to his crotch, and yeah. The easiest way to die in this fight is if you get caught in his huge charged up Moonlight Wave attack. He does this quick AoE to make you dodge backwards, but then he follows it up with his slam down that creates this giant wave of Moonlight energy that just destroys you.
I think the only boss
Look
that
how
has
devastating it is. So you got to
a
dodge
health
away
bar,
from the
a second
initial
health bar
AoE,
is the
and then you gotta
witches.
get right back close to him again so you can dodge that attack.
It's the easiest boss in the
Eventually,
game.
I succeeded.
Good hunter, have you seen the thread of light? Just a hair, a fleeting thing. Yet I clung to
Oh,
it,
really? In Dark Souls 3?
steeped as I was in the stench of
Yeah, that's a good thing this game doesn't. That's just annoying.
I never wanted to
Not
know.
challenging, really. I mean, it's challenging too, but it's really just
Really, I didn't.
inconvenient. I want to hear the guy in the studio that recorded this. I want to see him doing that crazy shit.
A tragic figure, but he will shame himself no longer.
Oh, I never did
He
this.
died with his ideals untarnished. He was a true hero, and earned that much at least.
Huh.
Do you know why the hunters are drawn to this nightmare? Because it sprouted from their very misdeeds. Things that some would rather keep secret. A pitiful tale of petty arrogance, really. High time someone exposed the whole charade.
Charade. There's a lot of bosses who are awesome in that game. Abyss Watches are a great example, but nearly get ruined because it's in the clock tower. Yeah. I have to fight them a second time. Abyss Watches make it work though. They're inspired by this game, so huh. Yeah, I want to play the Dark Souls eventually, man. Oh, come on.
Today's students need balance in work, life, and school. To give you the type of...
In the last episode, we had a bloody, brutal fight against Ludwig.
I wanted to just buy the
At the
trilogy,
start of that fight, do
but
you
I
remember
really
this
would
guy?
rather have the
He was
remastered
blood
version of the
corpse that
first
came
one.
towards us in the opening cutscene. Well, on
But
my
I think
second
I'd spend
fight
more
with
money if
Ludwig
I,
on a new character, I discovered that it's possible for this guy to survive the fight. He didn't get hit.
Oh, you've only
once,
played
as
3 in
Ludwig
one
stamped all
time.
over the place across all of my attempts.
I think everyone says
Think
3 is the
about how
best.
unlikely that is.
Or maybe the first one is the best. People aren't too
He's
excited
probably laughing here like, what the
or
fuck? How did
or
I
happy
survive
about
that?
the second
On
one.
my other characters, this guy's dead. Even
The
during
trilogy comes with the
fights
remaster
Ludwig
version?
that are still ongoing. So I guess you get one chance to save
Oh,
his
shit.
life. And while I'm busy discovering all these pointless things, you guys are finding some really
I didn't
cool
know that.
stuff. Commenter Aknort92
Yeah, that
in the
definitely
last
would get
video
that then.
found something particularly awesome. If you talk to Ludwig's head after the boss fight while wearing the garb of the
Cool.
healing church,
Yeah, I'll definitely
then
do
he
that.
says this.
Tell me, good hunter of the church, have you seen the light? Are my church hunters the honorable Spartans? I hoped they would be. Ah, good. That is a relief. To know I did not suffer such denigration.
Once it's a bit cheaper.
for nothing.
Once you've got Spider-Man Red Dead Redemption 2.
Kindly.
I haven't played Red Dead Redemption 2.
Now I may sleep in peace,
Spider-Man's really good though.
even in this darkest of nights.
Very good.
I see the moonlight.
I guess I didn't have the heart to tell him that his church hunters are now blood-raving lunatics. I'll be checking out what happens if you say no here, though. It should make for some pretty sad stuff.
Yeah,
with
Doom Eternal's-
Warcry, right? Telling him
I haven't
that
played the
his
first
life's
Doom
work
yet.
was for nothing. But it turns out there is one
I don't
blade
play a lot
the
of
healing
FPS
church
games.
still alive and human in the Nightmare.
But it seems like it'd be better than like your Call of Duties and Battlefields and stuff like that.
The church. Beasts are accursed, and curse is a shackle. Only ye, the true blades of the church.
He's reciting some chant that the healing church hunters must have learned.
I don't want to play
keep
Diablo 3 again
themselves
lately.
sane while hunting beasts. The repetition
Yeah.
would have helped with anyone's sanity. And he's not the only one who does this. The next two characters will
Best
meet, in
FPS you ever
fact,
played?
have their own little chants going on.
I'm sure it
Are
is.
you a hunter?
I love demon shit.
Well, that's very odd. Do you hear the toll of the bell?
SOTC?
Liar. Such pettiness will be your undoing.
Trying to think of what that is.
You seek will not be found
You
here.
might have to tell me.
Go back to your hunt,
SOTC.
and if you have the chance, put this night behind you. Places better left untouched.
Oh, Shadow of the Colossus.
Secrets better left alone.
This is why PlayStation is so much better. We have all of these games.
We're going to be hearing.
Well, not
that
Doom,
before
but
too long.
you know, Spider-Man,
It turns
God
out
of
it's
War,
not a
this
sound you
game,
want to hear.
Shadow
At the end of the
Colossus.
hallway, we find the Fist of Gratia, which belonged to this hulking
feel bad
brute
for
of a woman who didn't
Xbox
have the
One owner.
dexterity to wield firearms. And up ahead,
Honestly
we run
sucks
into
for them.
someone very familiar.
Especially last year, dude. We just had games, just exclusives, just coming out. Oh, God of War is fucking incredible,
This
dude.
is almost
Yeah.
certainly Vicar
I got it when it
Amelia,
came out
right?
last year.
It's the same chant we hear before her boss fight. The voice is the same, and it's her white.
It's funny that it actually plays like
albeit
this
less
game,
raggedy,
too.
Since this is based in the past, I
Like
think.
with combat,
We know that
kind of
blood-crazed
like the
hunters
controls,
ended up in
they
the
play like
Nightmare,
it.
So she must have ended up here when we put her to rest in the waking world. You have to
Spam
kill her
R1
in the waking world before you can even access the DLC, after all. As the eye pendant we found in the last video states, this is
And
the
yeah, it's pure
cathedral
eye
of
candy
the
too.
healing church
It
that
just looks good.
contains their private research hall. The church and the choir have long experimented on patients in order to gain insight and potentially ascend to the status of great ones. That much at least is clear from
Yeah,
the lore
I
we've learned
I
so
like
far.
I love
And
Halo.
this research hall can hopefully tell us a bit more about it.
I just want to play Halo Reach. That was my most favorite game. Like one of the best Halo games I ever played was Reach. It's kind of nostalgic for me, I guess. That's why I want to play it so bad.
In my eyes, I'm afraid I've dropped them in a puddle. Everything is pale now.
Is this Eileen? Listen to the way she says
Something, I
puddle.
think. They did like the
Sounds
Master
like when
Chief
she
collection.
says Hunter.
Hunter.
The accent is the same for sure, and maybe the voice as well. But beyond that,
Yeah,
I guess we need a bit more
so
proof.
I don't think
Anyway,
Reach is in that one
gameplay
though.
in this area is interesting.
Which I don't have a
For
PC that
me,
can run
it was
it.
the closest the series has come to having a stealth-based level.
I'm using like a
I don't know if everyone else
2012
experienced this,
laptop.
but I did, because all throughout the level you find these
For Windows
blue
7 too.
elixirs, which is a medicine that was used by the high ministers of the healing church to numb the brains of those they experimented on, and they're certainly
I'm only able to
appropriate
broadcast
in this research hall
PlayStation
teeming
games
with
because of
patients with enlarged heads. Our character
because my
retains
PlayStation lets
consciousness
me.
when they drink this through sheer force of
There's
will,
little
and
restrictions,
we
but it
make
does.
use of
I
the
can get it to
secondary
60
effect of the medicine, which is
60
to go
frames per second.
semi-stealthed. And I couldn't always be bothered killing every one of the patients, so often I would use this blue elixir to scout out the level, and I had some pretty cool moments with it. Look at this guy run
Oh, it's
past.
just Eileen's actress.
The Souls games are rare examples
Yeah, it's not
of
Eileen.
games that actually reward you for being observant. Some bookcases, for example, have pressure plates in front of them.
Yeah, 'cause
which,
she's in Yarnum,
when
right?
pressed, trigger the bookcases to
She's still in
attack
Yarnum
you.
at this time.
That's a sentence I never thought
Oh.
I'd say. Also, take for example this huge winding stairway. Some platforms you'll notice are inaccessible, which hints that this staircase will rotate later on and that you'll be rewarded for coming back and exploring again. I just really like stuff that rewards the observant player. And being observant really does reward you, because the item
Yes.
you need here is the lock shield.
Especially with
A shield
elevators.
with
Make sure you
such
are
low
looking around while you're going
requirements
up and down an
that pretty much
elevator.
any build can be able to use it. It protects you against non-physical damage, and it's going to be really useful in the next boss fight. They've also done a really good job, I think, of not just introducing new enemies.
I can't
but
use PC for
variations
recording, so I
on
just
the
do
same enemy.
PS4.
I can't say the same for games like Destiny that charge you $70
Yeah, it was,
for
man.
an expansion with the
So
same
you
enemies,
do it too.
and the enemies just have a different
You
skin.
did some streaming too.
No, in this game there's tons of new enemies, and a lot of those enemies, like the enlarged head patients, they all have vastly different movesets, meaning you're always guessing. Moving on a little bit, the main lore question for this area is, what was the church hoping to achieve with these patients? So let's listen to some dialogue.
Is that you, Lady Maria? No. You're someone else.
Non-commentary. They're edited videos.
Please.
Oh, okay.
Could you do something for me? I need brain fluid. Murky, mushy brain fluid.
You find this brain fluid on fully developed heads, the ones that talk about the sounds that they're hearing.
Yeah, I like streaming like just
I'm a
blind
Robin.
playthroughs mostly.
Grow up and become a nerd? What say you? Lady Maria. Lady Maria, say something. Anything.
Have you heard how curiously the sea churns? Like a storm, but like the rain, only gentle, like dripping water. It bellows from deep inside
That's cool, man.
of me. Here it comes.
Yeah, I just started doing it
Up my inside, but gently, like little
like a
droplets.
month ago. Which I had another
Brain
channel
fluid reads,
before, but
extracted from a patient
I split
whose
with
head expanded
the
until
dude
that
I was
all
working
that
with.
they were. These heads and the patients that have them They're
Showed him
the
my own
kind of
stuff
insight experiments
because
that
he
you would
wasn't
expect from the
as
church.
consistent
Clearly, the things
as I
they
wanted to
say
be.
have some significance. They're all related to water. They're not just the ramblings of insane people. The importance of large bodies of water is actually referenced in a lot of runes. The lake runes, for example, say that they
shit, dude, I'll
serve
sub
as
to
a
your channel
bulwark
too.
guarding sleep and an augur of the eldritch truth.
Gotta support each other.
They say that the transcription of the great
I didn't know
ones
you
in
were.
human voices
I didn't know you were
ripples
doing
like a
stuff too.
watery reflection. They say that we must overcome the hindrances of water and seek what is ours. And in the next video,
It's
we'll
fucking
learn a
hard
bit
to start
more
off.
about what this means. But just know for now that these beings clearly have more insight, even though it's really specific. They're these enlarged heads that hear the water.
That's something I've always wanted to
So
do.
will we, soon. One patient that hasn't completely turned into a large head talks about being a failure, as if
Yeah,
she's let down
I'm
the
not
Lady
about that.
Maria, who
I'm not
all
about
the
that censorship
patients
either.
clearly see as some caring, motherly figure. One character in particular talks the most. She's called Saint Adeline, and we help her take 3 helpings of brain fluid, and then...
Yeah, my friend was just very
I see a shape.
inconsistent with
My
uploading.
guide, I see your
Like we had
voice.
videos backlogs, but
Clearly as it bends and bleeds.
I'll tell you beforehand you can't cuss.
Revelation.
Yeah, it's like playing Mortal Kombat or something.
Just for me.
And say you can't cuss.
Thank you.
Or
For
GTA.
everything. Really. I used to be nothing.
I mean, if you're just starting out, it doesn't matter. It's not like you're getting ads anyways. You're just being yourself, you know? That's why I am. I don't really care what I say.
She's
As
so
long
proud that
I don't say
she
anything offensive, you
became
know?
something. Like she
I'm not like
finally
that,
had this
but
purpose. She gives you the milkweed rune if you complete her quest, which turns us into this thing.
But I'll say what I
And
want
she
to
also
say,
gives us the
pretty
balcony
much.
key, which leads to the area
Right.
that used to hold the
Just for
celestial
fun.
emissaries in the waking world. It's more proof that these patients were
Just something I like doing.
trying to be turned into kin, or these celestial emissaries. The milkweed rune reads, a translation of the inhumane, sticky whispers that reveal the nature of a celestial attendant. Sounds a lot like a celestial emissary. Speaking of failures, this next boss, the living failures. To me, these things, and by extension the other creatures in the research hall, they all seem to
This
be
is the boss fight
attempts
where I had
at
to fight
creating
myself.
celestials in some form, and maybe even celestial emissaries, beings that can talk or communicate with the Great Ones, perhaps. There are a lot
Yeah,
of
exactly.
similarities, especially in
I know plenty
regards
of
to where
people
you fight
who
them.
are,
It's an interesting boss.
you know, have
Every
like a
time you
million
take one
subscribers,
out,
and they still
another one
cuss.
spawns, and there's always going to be 4 of
Like
them
a lot.
attacking you from all sides. They're incredibly slow, but when you deplete
So it's not
their
like-
huge health pool, they get bolder
You
and
know.
more aggressive and more frantic. At around 50% health,
not impossible.
they start casting meteor storms together, which is best defended against using that lock shield that we picked up earlier, as it defends against arcane projectiles. If you're well positioned, you can even get a backstab off while they cast the meteor shower.
New videos backlog
which
for all
I
3
highly
series for Doom,
recommend because
Bloodborne,
it's a way to get in
Shadow of the
that
Colossus
much-needed
backlog,
damage.
but I'm just gonna edit them and play through God of War at the same time.
After succeeding, we talk to the wandering hunter. We're going
As
to
well
call
as
him
writing.
Simon, for reasons I'll explain later.
Oh, hello.
I wouldn't mind like starting
Not a
to
pretty sight, is it?
do reviews.
The true face of the blood-worshipping, beast-purging, healing church.
Yeah, that's the thing. It took me so long to get through the
That's
series
not
because I
all.
started out so bad.
You seek the secrets held by the nightmare, do you not?
Like I played, I checked my
Climb the
gameplay
astral
time was like
tower
50 something hours
and kill Maria.
to get to the very end.
She hides the real secret.
It's a 52 hour or 54 hour gameplay just to finish the fucking game once.
A corpse should be left well alone.
It's always around 50. Especially if you do like if you fight every boss.
Oh, I know very well How the secrets beckon so sweetly.
She steals your blood echoes and your heart.
Only an honest death will kill you now. Liberate you from your
She was really tough for me. I'm not gonna lie.
Lady Maria. So
Her
far,
theme is fucking
all
cool
we
too.
know is that she's the caretaker.
It's got the
of
bells going
patients
on in the background. It's such a cool
and she
touch.
hides the true secret. I am confident in saying that
Her first
this
phase
was
is
my
nothing.
favorite fight in Bloodborne so far.
This fight
I
is
love
so
fighting
anime.
Boss fights in this game because they put you on what seems like even footing with an opponent, and it allows you to make good use of the health regain mechanic, unlike most beast enemies that just flatten you in 1 or 2 hits.
Yeah.
I hate that. I love when it's a fight where you can regain your health. You can probably parry her, but I wasn't gonna find out.
It's almost
I feel
too
like
easy.
Spamming parry is a really shitty way to do this fight. I wanted to dash around and use my reflexes and my blades of mercy, and I just wanted to get through all of her phases that way. And as we're discovering, every boss in the old Hunters has phases. Maria is no different. She has 3. Every time I fought her, I fought one stage further. I did this because her phases are actually pretty well designed. It's not like fighting
Every Hunter fight is so anime though.
Fight a completely different
It feels straight off like an
50% of
anime.
his health. No, Maria trains you in
So
her
fast
attacks.
paced and
Every
just
phase simply
you have to like
upgrades
glue
the
your eyes to the
attacks that she's
screen.
already been using, meaning that earlier phases train you for future phases.
So
and
intense.
They reward you for learning.
Hunter fights are just
such a
the
good
best.
fight. And I'll tell you now, Maria is going to make a fantastic Prepare to Cry story. There is so much interesting stuff to talk about, but we'll have to do it another time. Let's talk a little bit about it. So, as her set says, she's an apprentice to German, someone who looked up to him, though he had an affection for her that she didn't seem to sense. Since German modelled the Hunter's dream, it's clear that the doll is actually modelled after Maria, this caretaker who shares most of her physical attributes. Maria is a caretaker of the patients, and the doll is a caretaker of us. There's a lot of similarities there, not just appearance.
Either way, if I heard
However,
phases,
German
she uses her gun in the first
certainly
phase, so I'll use my gun if she
seems
uses
with the
hers.
doll in the dream.
Put my gun away in second
And
phase
for
and
a
add
man who is
fire for
supposedly
third phase.
created
That's
the
cool.
doll out of love for another woman, he never
Yeah, that's a good
interacts
idea.
with her. Perhaps it's because the doll
Keep it
has
fair.
a completely different personality. Maybe it's because she's far less headstrong and way more subservient. He couldn't replicate who Maria was in the dream.
Yeah, take her on like
But yeah,
the New Game
let's talk
Plus,
about
using
it.
her blades
See
too,
you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching, and it's time.
and
to
her
get into some
armor.
secrets.
Just become her. Wrath of Mother Koss. This is the one I don't want to get to.
And I'm Bill. Never be surprised by high bills again. Come on, Bill. Google Fi, a better phone plan by Google.
Really? Didn't we just watch this?
Bill.
My
Never be
ears.
surprised by high bills again. Come on, Bill. Google Fi, a better phone plan by Google.
And I'm Bill.
This area and what happened here long ago.
The Blades of Mercy are cool
is what
too. I don't have
Maria
those
finds
either.
behind the astral clock tower. This is the fishing hamlet.
But yeah, I definitely want to fight her on my second new game.
DLC.
Using her weapon
Beneath the
because I didn't get it
surface, off to the
my
left
first
and the
time.
right, is the city of Yharnam. The nightmare we progressed through, from this perspective at least, resided beneath the Great Lake all along, which explains why all the patients in the previous episode heard the dripping and the currents and the rain. I went through the footage actually because I was curious, and just before the clock tower opened, both hands aligned on one of the many runes that line the edges of the clock. Guess which one it was? They pointed to a deep sea rune. It reads, "This transcription of the Great One's inhuman voices depicts down-reaching currents. This rune
No, I
means
didn't. I never
deep
saw
sea."
her.
great volumes of water serve as a bulwark.
I'm going to do a quest line this time because I want to fight the crow boss, which is or not boss but fight, which is apparently the actual hardest fight in the game.
Who violated this
the bloody crow, I think.
Blasphemous murderers, blood-crazed fiends. Atonement for the wretches by the wrath of Mother Goss. Mercy for the poor wasn't child. Mercy. Oh, please.
There's a lot in this dialogue. Firstly, this inhabitant of the village had some interaction with the scholars of Byrgenwerth, the wretches, as he calls them, the murderers, the blood-crazed fiends. They did something to a child, and he calls upon the wrath of Mother Cos, whose name should probably be familiar to you, right?
Ah.
Cos. Cosum. Cosum.
Do you hear our prayers?
Clearly, she's a great one. As recommended by a couple of people in the last video, if you come here
Whoa, what
as
is that
a
armor?
piece of cauliflower, then instead the villager says this.
Oh, this is the armor of the dude that helped me fight the Orphan.
Why care? A bottomless curse, a bottomless sea.
I never picked that up.
Source of all greatness, all things that be.
Wow, so you get new dialogue if you wear that.
For the baneful chants, weep with them as one in trance, and weep with us. Oh, weep with us.
So, what did those of Byrgenwerth do to warrant curses being placed upon them? It must have
Eileen's
been
one of my
pretty
favorite
terrible,
quest lines,
and
even
the
though her
accursed
final
rune
boss
reads,
whoops
"Skull
my
of a
ass."
local from the violated fishing
Oh,
village."
milkweed
The
rune,
inside
not a
of the
set.
skull was
Oh, okay.
forcibly searched for eyes, as evidenced by the innumerable scratches and indentations. No wonder the skull became stewed
Like the
in
beast
curses.
embrace rune, it changes her
And this
form.
skull
Oh.
explains it. It sounds like the scholars of Byrgenwerth came
See, I
to
didn't
this
know
little
that.
village and
There's so much stuff I don't know,
violated the
so.
inhabitants in the name of new discoveries.
Yeah, he's
And
not
it
a
also
final
sounds
boss.
like the villagers
Final
called
boss of the
upon a
quest
great
line, at
one
least.
to curse the scholars. According to the moon rune, the great
Bloody
ones
bloody
are
bloody
sympathetic
crow
in
of
spirit,
Canehurst.
after all. And based
That's
on
right.
the way the Byrgenwerth scholars were violating them and searching them for eyes, clearly the villagers had some interaction.
Yeah, that's my goal,
with
is to take him
the
out.
Eldritch truth. So
Or her.
the scholars were cursed, and so were their successors, the hunters. At this point, I went back and I unlocked all the cells we found in episode 1. Do you remember those? They were just past Ludwig. According to this key, hunters are held within the underground cells, so that things better left unseen and better left unknown will decay quietly. Within the first few cells, we find this church pick hunter. He drops the church pick, which is a sort of pickaxe crossed with a short sword or a spear type thing. And I also unlocked the door that held this guy, who was reciting
many weapons I
something
haven't got
about
yet.
being a true blade of the church. According to the wikis, his
Mute-
only
mute
purpose
yourself.
is to be killed and looted for his set, which
Oh,
names
yeah,
him
dude, I had
as
some huge rage
Yamamura
moments.
the Wanderer, an eastern warrior who pursued
never
the
muted,
east
though.
for honorable revenge, and then became a hunter of the League.
Some parts
The
where I just wanted to
innermost
yell
cell belonging to
and
the
did.
Bellringer remains
Plenty of that.
locked
I
for
still
now.
need to do I need to do a best moments compilation.
The bells toll.
There's a lot of jump scares.
For only death
Hey, Joe.
awaits foolish prying eyes. And the church
What's up, man?
professionals are never far behind.
Clearly there's more to discover, so now that the stage is set, let's play our part and get through to the finale. I love how this stage feels like an actual fishing village. They've done a great job with that. It's a unique location for a level as far as the Soulsborne series
Yeah.
goes, and they
There's
do
a
so
lot of
much
yellow
with
during
such
that
a simple
fight.
theme. The fishmen are a dime a dozen, and I like how backstabs are actually a viable technique against them, unlike most enemies in Bloodborne up until this point. The fishmen attack in packs, and they serve as the standard enemy, But the real threat are the giant fish troll things.
DLC's no joke, man.
The most scary enemy, in my opinion, is the one that can outrun your player character, and just look at how this thing moves when I turn my back on it.
It's
Scared the shit out
so
of me right there.
evil.
Approximately 1,000 backstabs later, you learn just how difficult these things are. Maybe I should have used those obviously
Jerk
placed
Sands
fire
Frontiers
pots against it.
Okay, we'll check them out too.
A note for next time. Hidden on the cliff face also is a path back to the ladder that was in front
Howler
of the
Monkey.
starting lantern.
Yeah.
The player who pays attention is more
He
likely
did, I don't
to
know
achieve
which one did
a
more
hidden
screaming during that
path,
fight, him or me.
which is a nice touch. And it is pretty worth it to look around all the time. Look at this thing. I noped out of here pretty quick. I didn't really fancy one of those things attacking me on a ladder. And
Yeah, that's the thing I have to do is kill both of
The
them
way this bit is designed.
to
I
get
only looked around because I
Maria's
started to
weapon.
hear the winter lanterns singing, and that's the kind of sound you want to watch out for, and it rewarded me by telling me there's a giant fish troll on the roof. You guys are probably realizing that I really like when games reward the observant player. I've probably said that a lot of times by now. So this next thing that happened probably happened to
Yo,
all
watch
of
the
you
Jerk
guys
Sands
too, right?
dudes.
You start fighting one of the fish trolls, and you convince yourself that other one on the roof isn't going to come attack me. That's not going to happen. And then you're about to win, and you're like, hang on, what's that noise?
Yeah, so the other one just jumps in and it helps him
One of those
out.
things was tough enough, but
So-
two? I ran away, and I got up the ladder just in time.
So either way, you had
That
to
was
fight
my
both of
plan for my
them.
Next attack, and then I fell in. Don't worry, I survived until I got out. And then I was like, I know, I'll drop those rope Molotov cocktails behind me. They can fall down ladders, right? No, turns out they can't.
No.
And then I fell in again. And at this point I just made plunging attacks a part of my strategy. It didn't work, really. Eventually I just got good, and I realized to my surprise that one
Gascoigne
of
has
them
the
had
saddest part
dropped
of the
a
story.
weapon. It
Outside
was the
maybe Maria
Rakugo,
Gurman.
which is Maria's weapon. It reads, Hunter weapon wielded by Lady Maria of the Astral Clock Tower. A trick sword originating in the same country as the Canehurst Chikage. Only this sword feeds not off blood, but instead demands great dexterity. Lady Maria was fond of this
Yeah, you have to have a lot of stamina to even use the
as
sword.
She frowned upon blood blades, being a distant relative of the Queen. One day, she abandoned her beloved Rakuyo, casting it into a dark well when she could stomach it no longer. What a neat little story. Maria must have eventually given in to her desire for blood, as she certainly uses blood and self-sacrifice in her boss fight. How curious that she's related to Queen Annalise as well. I've got some theories on this, but it'll have to wait for Prepare to Cry. By the end of the playthrough, the Rakuyo becomes my main weapon. This is a skill build after all, using the Blades of Mercy, the Burial Blade, and not to mention this character actually looks just like Maria, right? I modeled this character after the doll ages ago, so yeah, who would have thought that that would pay off? It's cool to have a weapon that you can call your own.
Is the audio on the
I've been
video
searching for one for a while.
that we're watching good?
Mine is the Rakuyo. What's yours?
I know the video is
Let me
skipping
know.
down a lot.
In a hut further down, we find
So
a
much I could do
lantern,
about that.
And lying on the ground,
Just gonna keep
dying
dropping
next
frames.
to that lantern, is Simon, the Bowblade Hunter.
As long as the audio is good, that's all we need, really.
I'm afraid I've made a botch of things.
Okay, good.
Oh, I can hear the bell now. The beast-eyed assassin.
Yeah, because the video on my screen is working good, but when I look at the stream, it's skipping around a bunch.
Again.
If there's something like a part of the it's moving a lot.
Please. I need you to do something. This village is the true secret. Testament to the old sins. It feeds this hunter's nightmare. Please. Bring to an end the horror. So our forefathers sin. We hunters cannot bear their weight forever. It isn't fair. It just isn't fair.
Have you guys watched speedruns on this game?
Simon.
I
was
watched
one
one
of
that
the
was like
last
34
sane
minutes
hunters in the
long.
Nightmare. He pushed us to go deeper. And
Apparently there's
deeper
one that's
into
like
it.
19 now.
And with Maria gone, he seems like he decided to come forward himself and fight a little
It's like
bit
no level. And there's also one with no hits.
There is another
Some guy went
hunter
through the whole
here
gameplay
other than Simon,
with not getting hit
someone who
once.
doesn't want anyone discovering what lies at the end of the nightmare. Brady
Eileen the Crow is the
church
saddest.
assassin. The weapon he uses is the blood letter, which assumes its true and terrifying form after it draws upon blood from the inner reaches of one's body and soul. This is what it reads. This was the only effective method of expelling tainted blood. Also, Brador, isolated in his cell,
She doesn't have a lot of backstory.
Well, well, look who's here. Welcome to my quarters. I've never entertained a guest before.
I never went to
You're
this
going
part.
kill me. After all you've done, kill me. As if to right your wrongs.
You get his weapon if you kill him, but I kept Brador alive here because I wasn't sure if there was more to him, and sure enough he does invade you a total of 4 times throughout the rest of the stage.
Wow.
Once outside his cell, once on
I only
a bridge,
encountered him twice, I
once
think.
in ambush when you pick up an item down below, and once in a cave. Each time he drops a different piece of his attire. The clothing has its own story as well. Turns out, Brador was a church assassin who wore the beast hide of his former compatriots. The church gave him a bell that
Wow.
he could ring to hunt people down and stop people discovering their secrets. And we'll talk more about him later, but moving on. In the next section, I spied one of those mollusk things clinging to a post, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to let myself get ambushed by that thing. I still remembered how one of them fell on me in an earlier level, and then I was like worried about looking upwards, and hundreds of them
Just like those
crawled down
scholars
shells
in the
and
lecture.
ambushed me, and I felt pretty stupid.
Those
But
things fell on you
seriously,
so
do you
much.
remember that first one that fell out of the sky in episode 1? It makes sense now, doesn't it? All along there was this world above us, we just didn't have the insight to see it, and how this one fell out of the nightmare itself is beyond me, but it's a cool concept to think that all of these nightmares are layered. It makes me think about the ship masts all over the ocean as we progress. Think about it, you've actually seen these ship masts before. You can actually see them in the Nightmare Frontier, suggesting that there's water down there, hidden in the fog, or perhaps that the Nightmare Frontier is even connected to this nightmare, but is even higher up. After all, in
You'd
the
think
first
so.
stage of the DLC, there's an amygdala corpse as well. Perhaps it fell out of the Nightmare Frontier as well. This is really speculation, but interesting to think about.
That makes sense, though.
To quote the Cosmic Eye Watcher badge,
You'd think
here we
that
stand,
Fishing
feet
Hamlet is the
planted
lowest
in the
part
earth,
of the
but
nightmare.
might the cosmos be very near us, only just above our heads? All of the nightmare realms are really high up, and they all have great ones residing at some of their highest points. Land masses float in the Nightmare Frontier, with Murgo in his loft in the tallest tower. The Hunter's Dream is nestled amongst these arch-tree-looking things in the clouds, with the moon presence descending from above, and the Hunter's Nightmare is within a great ocean, below a grand lake of mud, and on the beach of said lake is the washed-up corpse of a great one that was discovered long ago.
So this is the first discovered great one. This is what started it all. Fuck this guy. Fuck this guy.
Born from this corpse is the orphan of Kos. How curious that the orphan's mother wasn't alive for the birth. It reminds me of how the moon presence must die for us to be born as a great one as well. This is probably one of the hardest bosses in Bloodborne. The Orphan is insanely quick, he has a hugely varied moveset, and he even has a second phase where he evolves into a butterfly-looking thing.
I mean, he's literally just
in this fight are that he's fighting
just being born and
that trailed out with him when he
having
was
a temper
born,
tantrum.
and also that Mother Kos herself.
He's
has a
just so
face.
unpredictable.
Turns out she's somewhat humanoid in form, just like he is.
What the hell?
And I actually can't help myself. I start talking about gameplay, and then I get pulled back to talking about the lore again. I kind of feel
I didn't
like
notice
you
that she had a
guys are
face.
realizing how good the gameplay has been for the most part in this level. It's been an amazing stage, but let's just roll with it. Let's just talk about the story while I show you some of my failed fights against this guy. Specifically, let's talk about why our character is here, why we're doing all of this. We do have most of the items and dialogue now, after all. In the dialogue at the start, we learned that the Byrgenwerth scholars stumbled upon this fishing village, and that they did some pretty terrible things. Not only did they violate the villagers themselves, as mentioned in the accursed brew description, but they must have also stumbled upon the Great One, Kos, or her corpse at least, which washed up on the shore, because they managed to get themselves cursed. The man at the start of the village, and even the woman speaking as you get pulled into the DLC, remember her? Both of them plead for curses to be placed upon the fiends, upon their children and their children's children, on man and woman alike. A bottomless curse, a curse forever true. And the Great Ones do have the power to curse people. According to the Defiled Chalice, which is an item a lot of us probably have forgotten about, curses are, and I quote, caused by inciting the anger of the Great Ones. Additionally, according to the Moon Rune, as I've mentioned, the Great Ones are sympathetic in spirit, so it's not crazy to think that a Great One may have listened to the inhabitants of the fishing village as they pleaded for the Byrgenwerth scholars to be cursed in return for violating their village. The curse means that the Byrgenwerth scholars and, eventually, their successors, the hunters, would be drawn into a hunter's nightmare upon death. And it's a pretty perfect curse when you think about it. It's like the Great One is saying, "Oh, you like hunting so much? Well, live here forever, and hunt for all eternity, then." Simon tells us that the village is the source of the sin, and implies that we can bring an end to the curse here. So, we do what a hunter does best. We hunt.
I never got to use the Cos Parasite either. Wonder how hard it'd go through how it'd be to go through a whole game using just that. Okay, so Joe, you said Jerks Sands Frontier. Bloodborne. Lawrence and the Doll. Okay. Bloodborne close up. Holy shit, it's long.
Hi. I'm aware that in YouTube land, if you don't update for over 6 weeks, it's assumed that you've died. I haven't died. But basically, I had a quite substantial
Never seen
amount of
this.
time set aside that I was going to do this in, and then
Summer of George.
several things went wrong, one after the other, during the time I thought I would have off from other responsibilities, and then by the time
I won't have time to watch all of it.
The stuff again, so
Unfortunately,
it's late. And also, I was spending so much time apologizing in the comments for not having anything up yet.
We'll be listening to some of these at work, though.
Ironically, was slowing me down. So prior to the Old Hunters DLC coming out, there was a popular fan theory, and it's one that I agreed with, that Lawrence, the founder of the...
Have you guys heard of the two hidden bosses?
The Chalice Dungeon boss.
They're actually in the data files, but never were used.
The game never explicitly linked the two, but there was a fair amount of essentially circumstantial evidence that suggested, you know, if Lawrence is in the game, he's more likely to be the bloodletting beast than anything else. And I covered most of this in a video I did on the Hunter's Dream a while back. But then the DLC came out, and the DLC included a boss that is explicitly identified as being Lawrence. And this boss is fought in the Hunter's Nightmare, and it looks exactly like the Cleric Beast boss that we fought at the start of the game, except that it's
yeah, they look really cool. The designs did,
what I
for
want
sure.
To look at now is, has that put the kibosh on the whole Lawrence as the bloodletting beast?
Lotties
thing,
tell
and
you
we
the
just have
most
to accept
majority of the
that
lore.
he's this, or is there more to it? So to begin with, I want to look at the way that the bloodletting beast is fought in the waking world, while the first Vicar is fought in the Hunter's Nightmare. Now, the Hunter's Nightmare, like the rest of the Dreamlands, isn't bound by the same physical rules as the waking world is. The most obvious example of this is that in order to fight Lawrence, you have to retrieve Lawrence's own skull and then give it to him, which is of course physically impossible. The description of the skull reads as follows. Skull of Lawrence, first Vicar of the Healing Church. In reality, he became the first cleric beast, and his human skull only exists in the nightmare. The skull is a symbol of Lawrence's past and what he failed to protect.
Yeah, Rom is
He
just a
destined
spammer.
to seek the skull, but even
Rom has
if
too
he
many,
found it could
Rom
never
is like
restore his
fighting an
memories.
army, essentially.
So, in other words, it's something that never
That's what I hated about
physically
it.
existed. So Lawrence is fixated
And then he starts,
on
and then, well,
losing his
she, and then she
humanity
starts
and
moving a
becoming
lot
beast,
when you
which
approach
causes
her,
a symbol of his humanity to
and
manifest
nearly kills
physically
you
in
in
the
one
night.
hit.
In the same way that, for example, memories of the Grand
Yeah, and
Cathedral
Lawrence is
at
just a
different
roided up
points in
cleric
its
beast
time have
with fire
manifested as two completely separate Grand Cathedrals.
in a different second
So
stage.
basically, we can't entirely trust.
Oh, the second stage
what
isn't
we
as
see
bad
in
as the
Dreamlands
first.
to accurately represent what happened in the waking world. So we'll leave the Dreamlands for now and just look at the evidence that we have in the waking world. And in the waking world, we
Rom is
find
Miyazaki's
Lawrence's
favorite.
real
Oh yeah,
rather
Miyazaki's
than
the
symbolic skull. So
This is all
look at
the
the skull.
Soulsborne games.
What is immediately striking about it is that it looks like a primate skull, not a canine skull. This is important because looking at the first Vicar and the Cleric Beast, their heads are very canine looking. They have a long muzzle like a wolf. So the skull we have on the altar, that is definitively Lawrence's skull, doesn't match the Cleric Beast or the first Vicar. It's certainly a beast of some kind, but it doesn't look like that kind of beast.
Yeah, this guy's going really in depth with it
There's
too.
actually a notable, I'll call it a canine primate divide. The beasts that we find will tend toward looking like either wolves, the Scourge Beasts, Amelia, the Beast-Possessed Souls, the Cleric Beast, or they'll look like a person in basically bad werewolf makeup. So that's Gascoigne, the Beast Patience, the Abhorrent Beast.
That's what I said, they
and,
look
of
like
course, the
old
Bloodletting
werewolf
Beast.
movies.
So the skull looks more like it belongs to the latter group than it does the former. So to recap the arguments around the bloodletting beast that I made in the original video, when we first encounter the bloodletting beast in the chalices, he has a large wound on his head that roughly, if not exactly, corresponds to the fracture that we find in Lawrence's skull. The next time we encounter the bloodletting beast, the head has been removed entirely, which means that its skull is missing. The second form of the bloodletting beast is
that's
also
true.
fought directly before
The fighting area.
Yarnum,
I think I like Rom
Japanese
more.
name is Kemenochi no Aruji, which translates
Just
to
because of
Lord
the fight in
Beast
general and
Taken together,
the
that
arena.
makes the bloodletting beast seem like it's supposed to be a significant point in the story, although it's never explained. And of course, Lawrence is
because the fight is so much different from any other fight in the game.
The blood to Yharnam to begin with, so he would know about the underground labyrinth. And
but yeah, this bullshit.
Lord of the Beast Blood is a fitting title for him. So while none of this is explicit,
you're essentially getting gamed.
Suggest that okay, if the skull is going to come from anything in the game, the bloodletting beast is the most likely candidate. So the bloodletting beast probably Lawrence. The skull's not a perfect match for the bloodletting beast.
Yeah, it pretty much is a reskin too.
Protrudes slightly too far. Although
and it's like the same arena you fight
and skin and cartilage and hair to
Amelia in.
The face would become flatter. You can see this if you look at ape skulls versus ape faces. So it's not a perfect match, but the fact that we have this roughly primate creature with a gash in its head and then a skull that has a fracture in the same place that looks like it's from a primate, then we find out the creature's head was removed. Even if you take the DLC into account, the skull still looks way more like it came from the bloodletting beast than anything else in the game. But then there's this boss in the Nightmare that is explicitly identified as Lawrence, and the skull really doesn't look like it came from that. So how do we explain this? So, to start with, we know that the form that your consciousness takes in the Dreamlands doesn't have to correspond one-to-one with your physical body. A good example is Mikolash. Mikolash's physical body is a mummified corpse, and we actually have no idea how long he's been dead for, but he is alive and well and no worse for wear, physically anyway, in the Dreamlands. There's also Maria. We're told that Maria threw her Rakuyo away in the fishing hamlet, but when we face her in the Nightmare, she's still using it. The strangest case is probably Volta. Volta's form in the Dreamlands can change. If you summon him prior to his death, we get the version of Volta that we meet in the Forbidden Woods, where he's basically falling apart physically and psychologically, and he wears the Master's Iron Helm. If we complete Volta's questline and allow him to die, we can still summon him, but when we do so, he appears to be in his prime.
This ROM's beautiful area make up for the mandatory.
Interesting because by completing
I believe
Volta's
so.
Quest, he tells
just,
you this
was my last everything about it is just so much different than the rest. So unique.
As if the difference comes down to
that's the main thing, is the uniqueness of ROM and the fight.
So Lawrence's form
in the specific
doesn't
setting
need to correspond exactly to how he looked in the waking world. What's significant about Lawrence's form here isn't just that it's modelled on a cleric beast, it's the flames. Nightmare Lawrence, the first figure, whatever you want to call it, has not been set on fire. He's not burning from the
I think
outside.
McLash is a really cool boss.
The heat is coming from inside of him, and it's escaping through holes in his skin. It actually gets brighter and more intense when he wakes up from his slumber, and it looks.
Yeah, that's why I personally prefer ROM, because he is.
It makes clear when you get him down to a certain health level.
Mikolash has a cool personality,
and he will start bleeding.
He's the only boss that talks to you
as if it's
a lot like that.
Now, beasts have an instinctive fear of fire. It's well-founded because
he's easy and really a pushover, but
there are some beasts.
It only has like 4 moves
in a way that looks like Dark Souls style pyromancy. The beast-possessed soul is one. The Lauren cleric is another.
I figured he would have like a crazy transformation, but he actually doesn't.
Can't create fire.
Or his physical form would change, but
breathe out clouds of flame like a magician. The thing about Lawrence, though, is that he's different in that the flames are consuming him, and that's not something we see in any beasts. The closest thing we see to it is the Watchdog of the Old Lords, which mechanically is a beast, but it seems like it's a strange animal that the Pthumerians kept, not someone who transformed. Transformed beasts tend to keep human characteristics of some kind.
The chasing part of Mikolash is pretty annoying if you don't know exactly where to turn at, where to lead him to.
Equivalent of Paarl. So I think we have to take the flames here, like the skull, as a symbolic thing that the Nightmare has reified.
But his Call from Beyond, that move is just bullshit in general.
Flames. The argument's been put forward that
it's where the stuff goes above their head and lasers you.
Possibly during the burning of Old Yharnam, and I'm sympathetic toward that, although I'm not sure how the timeline of Old Yharnam actually works.
Lasers at you.
The problem is, though, again that the fire is internal. He hasn't been set on fire, his body has turned to fire. So what I would suggest here is that the form Lawrence takes in the nightmare is a reflection of his experiences with the old blood rather than a recreation of anything physical, and that the bloodletting beast
Yeah, the one reborn
is his
was
physical
nothing.
body left behind in the waking world.
It's like I said, the mandatory
In the
bosses
same
are
way
just
that
really easy compared to the
Lawrence's
DLC.
past as a human with human memories that he fails to hold on to manifests in the nightmare.
But
as
it's
a
so
physical
cool. I just
skull
found
that
out
we can
yesterday that you
carry
can
around
actually
with us.
use that
The
move.
pain and
You have to have a lot of
horror that Lawrence
arcane,
felt
but you can
as he
actually use it.
realized
That's
that this
pretty
blood was
fucking
tearing
cool.
his body apart.
I never
Makes
knew
his,
that.
I guess,
When you see so many people use it
consciousness
throughout the story.
manifest as a beast possessed by burning blood.
That's why I'm
This
using.
might
That's why I'm doing an
actually be
arcade run
why
now.
the bloodletting beast
So I just want to use all these cool spells.
The bloodletting beast, because it's trying to convey that Lawrence is trying to either halt or reverse his condition through bloodletting, getting this old blood out of his system. The description of the bloodletter weapon that we get in the DLC from Brador even says that bloodletting was believed, probably incorrectly, to be the only effective means of expelling tainted blood. So, if the bloodletting beast is Lawrence, then Lawrence is already dead. The skulls in the cathedral and the headless version that's moving around in Thumaru Ihil, that's not actually the bloodletting beast, really. That's the bloodletting beast's corpse functioning as the host to this massive parasite. So we can say that Lawrence died in the waking world as the bloodletting beast, then his consciousness was reborn in the nightmare as the first vicar, thus explaining how there can be two of him.
Huh.
As to why Lawrence in the nightmare looks like a cleric beast, Lawrence's skull states that Lawrence became the first cleric beast, and the boss we fight is literally the same model as the cleric beast boss in the game, right down to having nails on its leg in the same spot. Now,
Wow.
prior to the DLC, I had assumed that cleric beast just meant a beast who used to be a cleric.
Yeah, so it's just
the one that
essentially
we
a
fight
palette
on Bridge
swap.
was just an anonymous
A burning
cleric who
palette swap.
transformed, while Gascoigne and Amelia are cleric beasts, but we know their proper names.
Down to the nail, literally.
So it's not like there's a specific thing called a cleric beast, it's just a beast that is a
No
cleric.
pun intended.
Then the DLC shows up, and between Lawrence's skull, the first Vicar boss fight, and Brador's hat, it starts suggesting that cleric beast is actually a singular kind of beast that clerics turn into. Now, there might be something in that, because if you look at Amelia, if you look at the cleric beast boss and what's left of the beast Brador killed, they don't look identical, but they have horns, they have whitish grey fur. Amelia and the cleric beast both have canine skull shapes. It's impossible to tell with Brador because it's only the scalp of the creature. So it could be that there were common traits to the beasts that clerics turned into for whatever
The
reason.
early bosses are
even
better
though
than the
each
second
beast,
half enemies.
ultimately looked unique. So I think that, like the skull and like the
Yeah, in
burning
terms of
blood,
fights, I think so.
the form that
And
Lawrence
difficulty.
has taken is symbolic. His life is essentially defined
It's
by
just kinda
the
weird how
failure
everything is,
of
like,
the healing church.
reversed.
So his consciousness has taken on a form that embodies his failure. He becomes a cleric beast filled with burning blood that's desperate
If you don't play the
to recover
DLC, that
its
is.
lost humanity. You can make this argument for a lot of things, actually, in the Hunter's Nightmare. Ludwig.
Just,
Ludwig's
Murgo's
beast
Wet
form
Nurse
is
is just a
completely
pushover.
unlike anything else we've seen. Not only is it equine, but it has an additional mouth.
Yeah, I
It
love
almost
Murgo's
seems
Wet
to be
Nurse.
two different creatures that have been fused
One of the
together,
best
which is not
designs.
something that we
Such
see
a badass
in the
looking
beasts
thing.
that we run into in the waking world. And
It's
one
like
of
a
the things
reaper
that
with
I've stressed about the
a bunch
Hunter's
of
Nightmare
hands
when I've talked about it
or
is
arms.
that it looks like it's been specifically patterned on depictions of Buddhist hell. And in one of the Buddhist hells, sinners are tortured by a horse-headed monster. So if Ludwig is weighed down by all of the
Oh, you
people
mentioned that,
he
Joe,
killed
about
and
Buddhist hell.
tortured as a hunter, that could explain why he takes the form of this monstrous
Horse beast that tortures the dead.
It could also explain the Orphan of Kos. The orphan that we run into is an adult, but for some reason is still attached to
Yeah, the
a
optional bosses
placenta
are
and
badass.
inside his mother's body. This
Like
makes
Parl.
very little
Parl is so
rational
cool looking.
sense. But you could say that the orphan dies,
Amygdala.
it never has a chance to grow. Then its consciousness survives in the dreamlands, and over time it grows to adulthood, but remains essentially trapped within its mother's body because it was never properly born. But this whole train of thought is leading me to another point, which is, So prior to the DLC, I had a pretty simple explanation for what was happening with all these things in the Dreamlands. And that was that the Dreamlands were another dimension that you could travel to and from, but was also home to various creatures which I assumed were just native life forms. So things like crawlers, the giant lost children, the silver beasts, the amygdala, etc., were the natural fauna of this world, probably left over from Lauren. So characters like Mikolash and Edgar, and enemies like the Slime Scholars, had been brought there from outside. And I stressed this very heavily in the previous episode I did on the Hunter's Dream, and the reason I was doing that is because a lot of people were assuming that the game worked basically like Inception.
Yeah.
We were inside actual dreams that
Oh,
people were
the first
having.
videos are really bad.
And then the Hunter's Nightmare
The
showed
first
up
gameplays,
and ruined everything.
first like
The Hunter's
7
Nightmare
or
is
something
presented to
episodes,
us
I think.
as a kind of afterlife
Really bad
where
quality.
the souls of the old hunters have become trapped as punishment.
I had like
for
a
what happened
very
at the
limited
fishing hamlet. So
internet
when we run into,
internet connection,
Maria,
so it was running at like
Ludwig,
360p.
Possibly Antal, what's left of Gratia.
Like slowly evolved
They've succumbed to the curse
my technology
and
as I
trapped
progressed through that
here.
gameplay.
Fine.
Because I got a better
But
mic
they're
too
not
at the end of it.
only things here, and there are things that we run into in the Hunter's Nightmare that we recognize as native to the waking world, but at the same time shouldn't really be here, if we're using that old model of how the Dreamlands worked. Now, there are some concessions we can make that explain how some of these things got here. For example, there's an eye collector right before Ludwig. The eye collector is not a
Yeah, I'd
hunter,
appreciate it,
but
man.
if she's collecting eyes, then she probably picked up a blood-drunk eye and ended up here the same way that we did. There's also crows nearby. Crows
thanks,
eat
dude.
eyes. Maybe they ate a blood-drunk eye and got snatched out of the sky by an amygdala. Okay. Then there's beast patients. The beast patients aren't hunters, but if you watch the introductory cinematic of the game, you can see that some people who are partially transformed into beasts have
Such a badass
blood-drunk
opening
eyes.
scene.
So, okay, maybe these are people who got blood-drunk and they turned into beasts and then they got grabbed and sent to the nightmare. Then there are members of the Healing Church who don't seem to be blood-drunk, but okay. Maybe the Healing Church intentionally sends people into the nightmare to make sure no one gets to the hamlet. As you can see, the excuses are getting more and more tenuous. Then we hit the research hall and it becomes impossible to keep making excuses. There are the research hall patients, there's the living failures, and there's Adeline. They're not hunters, and there's no way an amygdala grabbed them by accident. And there's also the oddness, for example, of the corpses in Ludwig's room, who appear to have individual consciousness to the point where they can try to escape from Ludwig and beg us to help them. But who are they? Where did they come from? Okay, they could be people that he killed, but the nightmare explicitly grows from the fishing hamlet and it's connected to the hunters. Not everyone ends up here, so why are they here? And then there's these things, these church giant executioner squid hybrids with the axes that
Shows off the
I
kind of
don't
hunter
even
who
know.
want to become a
I mean,
great one
did-
for personal
did these
gain.
things actually
Huh.
exist? So while we used to be able to say, okay, there's a division here, there's stuff that naturally occurred in the nightmare because it's made out of bits and pieces.
Shows
of
a brutal
lore,
hunter.
and then there's things that have come into the nightmare from outside. Now
doesn't
we
give a
have this
fuck.
sort of nebulous third category of
It's pretty
things that
badass,
just
though.
kind of seem to be there. Now, previously in the Dreamlands, we've seen areas that are basically patchworks of bits and pieces of the waking world. The
Exactly,
most
you make your
obvious
own
being
story
the
as you
Nightmare
go.
itself, which has 2 copies of the same building existing within walking distance of each other.
That's
On
what
the
makes this game
basis
so
of
good.
What we find in the Hunter's Nightmare, and particularly in the research hall, it looks as though, I guess we'll call them consciousnesses, can be created in the nightmare out of patchwork bits in the same way that we see locations created. The only prior example of something like this that we'd seen was the doll who was inanimate in the waking world but alive in the Dreamlands. And the doll was obviously a very important character in the story, so it kind of made sense for her to stand out as unique. The thing about the Hunter's Nightmare, though, is that we come face to face, not technically face, we meet Adeline. What Adeline is going through is explicitly described as something that happened in the early days of the Healing Church. But as far as she is concerned, and as far as everything else in the research hall is concerned, this is happening in the present. Now, if this were the real Adeline, either snatched by an amygdala or trapped here after she died, this would already have happened to her. But as far as she's concerned, it's happening
Came to
now,
try and
and
save
we're
this place, but
actually
of course in the end he
playing a
gives
part
in to Gurman.
Ludwig
He realizes he
and
can't
Gurman
save this
are
place
both
with his humanity
explicitly
intact.
aware that they entered the Dreamlands
Wow.
and they've been there for some time.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much what happens.
Church hunters, the honorable Spartans. I hoped they would be.
Oh.
Just kind of follow with what Gerber wants you to do.
You so long.
Mikolash probably is.
Now I'm waking up. I'll forget everything.
But then Adeline has no continuity to her. In other words, Adeline, and by extension everyone else in the research hall, looks like a facsimile of the real thing that's been...
I like to say when he
conjured
turns
out
into
of
a great
memories,
one,
probably Maria's,
he eventually
rather than
saves
something that's entered from the outside.
or does better for
And yet,
humanity.
despite being a facsimile, they have free
Given the
will
power
and
he's
will
given.
persist after whoever created them has gone. So we're now left with a situation.
So many.
where
It's so easy to make
a lot of
Marilyn
the
Manson in this
monsters
game.
we run into in the Dreamlands.
There's a bunch of Marilyn Manson looking
might
characters
not
too,
be
like the
native
scholars.
creatures to these strange dimensions, or creatures from the
And,
waking world. They might just be things that were
Dumerian
conjured up
Queen
and given
Yarnum.
life by some consciousness that had some influence over the Dreamlands. It's not an earth-shattering revelation. It's something a lot of other people had suggested. I know Redgrave had suggested something like this before the DLC landed. But I wanted to get it laid out like this because it's going to be important in the next set of things I'm going to discuss. So, with the benefit of the DLC, we now know that the doll is explicitly based on a real person, and that real person is Maria.
Okay, you
who
guys
was
wanna watch that
Gurman's
one?
Apprentice. It looks like Gurman probably built her because Gurman was obsessed.
Yeah,
the doll comes
let's
to
move on to
life
this
in
one too.
Dreamlands and is not possessed by Maria's spirit.
I don't have too much time. It's already almost 2. Totally lame. But yeah, let's check out this one. No tears in the chat. So you guys wanted to watch... Oh, these are short. I'm able to watch all of these. Yeah, the Thumerians are really interesting. Entirely other race
When
of
the
people.
old blood was found, it must have been thought a miracle. They called it the blood of the gods, and rightly so, for if you injected it into your veins, you would no longer be afflicted by the weaknesses of the flesh. It follows that a city built upon this blood would become mighty indeed, and so it was with Yharnam. The supply of the blood was controlled by the healing church, and the church became the most powerful of all.
Yeah, I'm still in
The
Yarnum
blood
right now on
was
my
foul,
New Game Plus.
infected. Those who had
I've been
taken
doing
the
Chalice
blood
dungeons,
began
like
transferring
just
into
doing
these
random
beasts,
ones.
and
Man, you can
eventually
get so much
church
echoes by
people
doing
discovered
those.
the secret
It's so good for early game.
Fearing the populace itself, they retreated into
Some
the
enemies that
Forbidden
drop like
Wall
9,000 a
and devised
piece.
a plan to fight back.
It's insane.
The church
So I've been doing that and
hunters
just leveling up my arcane.
The hunters in white
Till I can get my
specialized in
sword ready.
experimental blood ministration, but the church continued
holy light
to
sword.
use the old blood, albeit now with fear in their hearts.
More
The
dedicated
hunters in
areas
white
of the Chalice
were a little
dungeons to the
different.
Pridnarians.
Their role was to violently
Me and Meg
purge
explored
this
through.
town
Yeah.
of the beastly scourge. Beasthood was a cancer, and with their surgical white gloves,
Chalice dungeons seems
the
like
Black Church hunters
a
would
good on
remove
paper
beasthood
idea.
from the hearts of the
Just didn't
Yarnums.
really
They were known to dispose
hit
of
it as good as
victims,
they
even
it
potential
planned.
victims, before
Didn't
signs
turn
of
out as
sickness
well as
had
they
even
thought.
manifested themselves. Their black attire inspired fear in the hearts of the Yarnamites, for if they decided that you had the beast within you, then it was so.
Maybe in the
But
sequel
beast
or
lies
prequel or
dormant within
whatever.
us all. and ironically,
they'll fix it up to where it's
into the most
more interesting and
Father
more rewarding
was a title used for
to
clerics in
travel
a foreign
through.
land, and the healing church knew no such rank. An outsider, Father Gascoigne joined the ranks of the Black Church hunters. Perhaps he, like many others, was sick.
It's essentially just randomly generated
Perhaps he saw
dungeons.
the miracles that the church was performing, actual miracles that could have inspired a new faith in the man. Or perhaps it was the thirst for blood that drew him here.
Yeah, I don't know if
For
this game is just a
Gascoigne
one-off or
turned out
what.
to be a truly capable hunter, a fine addition to the ranks of the church.
If Sony wants to
Gascoigne was partnered with another, an older hunter, by the
invest in
name
it,
of Henrique.
it's
Capable
really up to
beyond
Sony.
his years, this
It would be
old
wise
man
of them,
was
though.
easily recognizable in his unique yellow garb. Its description tells us that they were a fierce and gallant duo, but also that their partnership led
You're okay
to
with single
Henrique's
masterpiece? Yeah.
tragically long life. He must have been very old indeed to be tragically so.
Yeah,
Perhaps
they could
Gascoigne's
have.
access to the church
I agree
granted
with that.
Henrique access to the old blood, and it's possible that the miraculous blood granted him life beyond his years. Who knows what that can do to a man?
A
Together,
prequel comic
Henrique
series?
and Gascoigne
What?
were a part of the effort
Really?
to purge Yharnam of the scourge. Just two more hunters doing what hunters
I haven't heard of
must,
that.
for the good of the city, of course. Gascoigne even found love outside the church's walls within central Yharnam. A woman named Viola, blonde and favoring a bright red brooch. Perhaps the jewel was a gift from a hunter. Imagine being
That's
a
what
man
his daughter
of
asked
Yharnam
for.
during this time. Put yourself in this city. As a good Yharnamite would, you join the nightly hunt with your
Yeah, maybe Sekiro will
fighting against the
fill
scourge.
a void
You lock
that
your
you
women
guys
and
want.
children safely at home, with incense at their doors to ward away the beasts.
Sekiro's gonna be
You fight
badass.
alongside the Black Church
It's
hunter,
almost here too.
Though these men of the church are watching you at all times for any signs of the plague. You fight alongside those who would kill you.
I might do Dark
if they
Souls
had
first
to.
before I do Sekiro.
In time, Viola fell pregnant. Soon after, Gascoigne left the healing church.
And then probably Sekiro then, and then
Perhaps he had
probably
something
after
more
that we'll do
important to deal
Neo.
with now.
Who are you? I don't know your voice.
Yeah, you're glad we have Sekiro and not Bloodborne 2?
Are you a hunter?
Family must have pulled him away from the church.
Yeah,
and
tarnish
on
the legend
night of
and
our
lore of
unending
this.
hunt,
That's
we
what I'd be
found
afraid
this
of
young
too.
girl alone in her family's home.
And I just really look for my mum. Daddy never came back from the hunt, and she went to find him.
I'm sure Dark Souls 2 is not that bad though.
Alone and scared.
We're looking for a woman with a red brooch and a man garbed in black. Imagine being Gascoigne at this point in the story.
I'll still play it and form
An
my own
ex-hunter
opinion
of the
though.
Healing Church, he still wears the tattered black garb.
Yeah, I
that
plan on
shows
buying the
how
trilogy.
faithfully He served the church in their hunt.
I mean,
And
because I
tonight,
found it for like
the
60
hunt
bucks,
is
so
worse
you know
than
why
any night
not?
before it. Tonight, the line between man and beast is blurred.
You can get all three of them.
The beast men of Yharnam cry for death to their ministers if they see you wearing the minister's garb. This is the exact same thing Gascoigne was wearing. It's unclear exactly what happened in the tomb of Erden, but here we find Father Gascoigne, surrounded by the corpses of fellow Yharnamites, hacking them to
Quote
pieces,
it, I get a lot, it's
completely
the worst
lost
Dark
to
Souls
his
game, which is
thirst for
saying,
blood.
which is,
On
isn't
rooftop
saying much
nearby,
because it's still a great
we
game.
find his wife, dead.
It's just the worst out of the
Mum
series.
has a red jeweled brooch.
It wasn't directed by Miyazaki, so for me it doesn't have the same magic. Oh,
Oh,
that explains a lot then.
if you find my mum,
It'd be like if Sakura didn't direct a Smash Brothers.
Favorite songs. And when Daddy forgets us, we play it for him so he remembers.
Gascoigne's probably his second
Mum's
favorite.
silly running off without it.
A small music box received from a young Yharnam girl.
Yeah, he's definitely got a lot of lore.
Plays a song shared by her mother and father.
He's just a
Inside
family
the
man.
lid is a small scrap of paper, perhaps an old message. Two names can be made out, however faintly. Viola and Gascoigne. When we play their song, the husband recoils.
Yeah, I
in
explored
agony.
around Yharnam and picked this
Gascoigne is
up,
losing
this music
himself to
box.
the beastly scourge.
I didn't do that
He
before.
wants to forget, but the music reminds him of his wife, his children, his city, his humanity, his dead wife, his broken city, his despair. His wife is likely dead at his hand, for she didn't have their music box to remind him of who he was. as she had done many times before. Gascoigne is beyond saving, and
Also noticed you can summon Gascoigne now.
It almost sounds as if his
it's fucking
last
awesome.
words are, "Forgive me." We don't have the heart to give a child her dead mother's brooch. Instead, we send her to Erden Chapel. She can't stay in this house alone, for neither her mother nor her father is coming back for her. Better to send her to a safe place.
Hello, Miss Hunter. Still can't find my mum. Oh, okay. I can wait. But isn't there something I can do? Maybe Mum and Dad are stuck out there, waiting for me to come and find them. What do you think?
That's sad, dude.
We sent her to.
So Gascoigne did kill his wife.
Okay.
I never
Thank
noticed
you,
that.
Miss Hunter. I love you almost as much as Mum and Dad. And Granddad.
She never appears there. Trace the path she would have taken. Imagine this little girl creeping through a sewer filled with crawling corpses and carrion crows,
man.
to run past it all and come so close to the chapel, only to spy this thing at the end of the tunnel. It eats the little girl, and after your revenge, you find the bloodied white ribbon upon its remains.
Oh.
You haven't by any chance seen my little sister, have you?
Someone did come back for the little girl. Turns out Gascoigne had 2 daughters, and you just sent one to her death.
That's
I
sad.
tried to look after the house, but she's run off somewhere. She's still quite small, and wears a big white ribbon. Have you seen her out there anywhere?
So regardless of what you do, she dies.
How did this happen? Why would she ever go outside? At least I'll have something to remember her by.
The truly sad thing is, a friend of the family was waiting at Erden Tomb around this time, the one the littlest daughter calls Grandad. He could have met the youngest daughter there, had the pig not consumed her in the tunnel. Instead, Henrique goes mad here in this place. Perhaps he discovered that someone killed his friend, or perhaps, since the littlest daughter calls him Grandad, he discovered the corpse of his daughter, Viola.
Perfect timing. I must warn you not to go near the tomb below Erden Chapel in the Cathedral Ward. Henrik, an old hunter, has gone mad, and he's my mark.
When we arrive, we're already too late. As with Gascoigne,
Damn.
loss pushes Henrique over the edge. We've seen that
I
hunters
know.
turn into terrible beasts, so the hunter must become the hunted.
What did you guys think of Neo? Did you play that?
That wasn't necessary of you, but you have my thanks. We made it with our lives. You're not bad at all. You must have killed Gascoigne as well, then.
Eileen the Crow.
He was falling apart. I'm sure it had to be done.
Yeah, we never did Eileen's quest line. That's what I want to do when I play through
A
it.
hunter should hunt beasts. Leave the hunting of hunters to me.
Oh, is it not Frontsoft? I thought it was.
Gascoigne killed his wife. We killed Gascoigne. Henrique tried to kill us, so Eileen killed Henrique. The last
Let me see.
surviving daughter throws
thought
herself
it
off
was.
the ledge upon receiving her sister's bloodied ribbon, and the bloodline of Gascoigne ends here.
Oh no, it's Team Ninja. That's what it is.
However, somewhere, in another hunt perhaps, you never spoke to the littlest daughter. She never went looking for her parents. She never travelled down this tunnel. She stayed home until her sister returned, and they huddled together.
I always thought Neo was, I think it's a bit overrated.
I know.
Story and atmosphere and Optipar.
The
Oh.
morning always comes.
I thought it was FromSoft for some reason. I don't know why. It should continue on. Which other woods do you guys want to see? How could we do one more? This is all of them. Alfred. Not from. Yeah, there's only 4 of them. Dun, dun, dun. Eileen the crew. Yeah, that's what I was thinking too. She seems more interesting. And I'm going to do her quest line next. Some people believe that might as well let them play it out. Go away, ads.
When the beastly scourge crept into Yharnam,
some people believe the older daughter is actually this crazy neighbor who wanted her ribbon.
And fire,
instead of jumping to her death, she tried to get down, and the brick troll at the bottom killed her. Either way, though, Eileen is top notch.
To counter the beasts. Together, you would have thought that they'd stand a chance. Yet, when we arrive in Yharnam, something seems wrong. The hunt continues, but the populace has changed. The line between man and beast is blurred, and perhaps it was the bloodlust that the hunt inspired that further awakened that beast within man. The hunters become hated and feared, for they turned into the most terrible beasts. To prevent this from happening, there has always been a hunter of hunters, a hunter with the resolve to hunt former comrades who succumbed to their thirst for blood. Hunters of hunters dress as crows to suggest sky burial. I quote, they hunt with the hope that former compatriots
so you can get her a cool crow mask
and find rest in a hunter's dream. Eileen is one of these hunters, and she was likely recruited when the hunter's workshop was still in its infancy. She wields the blades of mercy, forged with siderite, which is a rare mineral of the heavens. This weapon and German's burial blade are the only weapons of their kind. They're masterpieces that defined the entire array of weapons crafted at the workshop. Eventually, the hunter's workshop was
Sky burial means?
But German went on to become
I'm not sure.
host of the hunter's dream and started to guide
I'm still
hunters
learning.
into the waking world. Like us and many other hunters, Eileen visited the dream too. When a hunter of the dream dies in the waking
you can get her
world,
set.
their consciousness retreats to the hunter's dream. From here, it seems that they can set out and brave that night again.
Oh, get her a badge
With the
from her
dream to
quest. You
sustain
get her
her,
set.
Eileen must have
Weapon.
been a
Okay.
force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, because I really want to try the Blades of Mercy too. That shit looks
Good
cool.
at, a skill, a talent. Eileen's skill
Seems
was
like a
that
very
she
combo
held the
heavy,
control to resist
combo heavy
the
weapon too.
intoxicating effects of the hunt, and the ability to deal with hunters who were too far gone. When a hunter gave in to bloodlust, Eileen would swoop in and kill him or her before they could do any more damage. Her very unique hunts protected the other hunters from themselves, and she did this task until her age caught up with her, and even beyond
Yeah,
that,
seriously.
because the Eileen we meet is very old indeed. But one day, she stopped dreaming.
I'm sure she fights back pretty
Over time,
hardcore.
Countless hunters have visited this dream. The
Sky
graves
burials
here
explaining
stand
Drexand's
in their
frontiers.
memory.
Oh, okay.
It all seems so long ago now.
Well, I know what I'm going to be watching.
Farewell, good hunter.
Or at least listening to.
May you find your worth in the waking world.
No more dreams for me. This is my last chance.
So, like many other hunters before her, Eileen was freed from the dream. German, host of the hunter's dream, granted her mercy. But did she go willingly, or did she simply outlive her usefulness? Whatever the case, we might never know.
Everything very
Eileen
early in the
remains
game.
the
Oh yeah,
island
she just drops
and
everything,
continues
doesn't
her
she?
hunt, her purpose unfulfilled.
Oh, a hunter, are you? And an outsider?
She probably puts up a hell of a fight.
What a mess you've been caught up
You'd
in.
think.
And tonight of all nights, prepare yourself for the worst. There are no humans left. They're all flesh-hungry
Just drops the badge.
beasts now.
Without the dream,
You still
Eileen's
have to
death
buy
is
it,
permanent. Yet still, she remains in Yharnam, proud, undeterred, and determined to hunt down every last hunter who poses a threat. But Eileen is one of the oldest characters we encounter, and without your help, she will perish in any assassination she attempts.
That wasn't
Uri lets you
necessary
choose
of
her.
but you have my thanks. We made it with our lives. You're not bad at all.
Try and be fair about it. She probably whoop your ass a
You
few
must have killed
times.
Gascoigne as well, then. He was falling apart. I'm sure it had to be done. But try to keep your hands clean. A hunter should hunt beasts. Leave the hunting of hunters to me.
Her pride is untouched, and she continues to place herself in harm's way.
Badass old bird.
Oh. Is that you again? I'm afraid I've made a bit of a blunder. I'm just going to have a short rest. Though, don't worry. I've taken blood. Enough to save an old woman.
Yeah, I remember that.
Still lies in wait.
I swear, I thought I saw one of you guys say.
This is my score.
I think it was MPTP who said that Rom was the
Eileen's
final
trail of
boss.
assassinations eventually leads her to the most powerful hunter in the waking world. People call him the Bloody Crow of Chaos.
I'm glad he wasn't, though.
But to Eileen,
Or
he was
she.
likely a former comrade and possibly one of Gurman's first apprentices. Let's note 3 things about him. 1, he wears
Oh, do the
profile
quest line
suit
after
as
the
Eileen
Blood Moon?
does,
Oh, okay.
suggesting that he is, or was, a hunter of hunters. 2, he has mastered the art of quickening and dashes about with extreme speed, and this art is particular to the first hunters of the workshop.
Old hunter bone.
Indeed, we tease this art from our hunter's remains. Once, this hunter was likely an apprentice to Gurman, one of the first. Thirdly, the Bloody Crow uses the weapons and armor of Canehurst, which is a faraway land ruled by a queen who craves the blood of hunters. He drops the Blood Rapture rune,
Yeah, this is
which
a guy, I
resonates
guess.
with servants of the queen. Whoever he is, he seems to no longer see a purpose in hunting beasts.
So this
He
is
and
the hardest
Eileen
fight right
are
here.
So different in that respect. In fact, Eileen could just as easily find herself in his place if you don't aid her on her journey, and she does. She becomes almost like the townsfolk of Yharnam, who see nothing but evil when they look at another hunter.
Huh.
The beasts cannot be stopped!
Wow.
What good hunters now? Your blood is mine.
You monsters. All hunters must die.
No, you can't do it after Blood Moon. You have to do it from the start.
But you do.
At the end of it,
Eileen,
Bloody Crow.
and she doesn't
Bloody
lose
Crow
herself.
happens.
She lies here
just
on
after the Blood Moon
steps,
ascends.
bloodied
Okay.
and broken after her fight, to
Any
pass
DLC
along
bosses
her
are
duty
harder?
to another hunter.
Don't you ever listen to your elders. No matter. You did save my life. I don't seem to be apt for this life anymore. My glory days were long ago now. I know. Here. For you. This too is
Bloody
hunter's
Crow
work,
fucker is still the hardest fights in the game.
but it bears no honor.
Yeah, they should have made him a boss. Like,
The burden
seriously.
you may choose to carry. The decision is
They set it
yours
up like it's a
alone.
boss fight, but it's not considered one.
My eyes grow heavy. Let me rest a while.
After all this, you should be questioning the hunt. Many characters do. Its purpose is, of course, to hunt beasts, but it was the hunt itself that further awakened the beasthood within man. It's unleashed the blood-crazed hunters upon the world, men and women who individually can do more damage than any mere animal. And when all is said and
Yeah,
done,
might as well be.
when you have painted Yharnam with the blood of its men and women who turned into beasts, who did you really kill for? Is it really mercy that Gurman shows to those who exit the dream? Or are we removed because we came too close to the truth? After all, once you wake, it's difficult to remember what you dreamed about.
That is a good question, though. But I'd like to think that Gurman is not hiding something or not wanting you to know everything. I'd like to think that Gurman is trying to just keep you away from being in his position. You think it's mercy? Yeah. Yeah, like whenever he wants out so bad, but he also doesn't want you to be where he's at. Just like Maria, yeah. Alright, guys. We need to let Miyazaki just tell us everything. Have like a book club. Let the dude just write a book about it all. That'd be dope. Junta's work. A junta. Transcend the junts. Oh, intro cinematic? That's a cool idea. Be a good transition. Good idea. Yeah, interview him or something. Since we're planning Dark Souls 1 next. Intro. Which one? The first one or the second one? Yeah, let's get hyped, dudes. I don't know which one I should go to, though. Second? Okay.
Today's students need balance in work, life, and school to give you the type of...
In the age of ancients, the world was unformed, shrouded by fog.
Bloodborne's not Souls. Yeah, I know they're completely different playstyles.
Land of grey crags,
these games I've heard are more defensive.
Trees and everlasting dragons.
A lot more defensive, and Bloodborne is not.
But then there was fire.
Because there's actually shields in this game.
And with
one I've heard of.
Came disparity. Heat and cold. Life and death. And of course, light and dark. Then from the dark, they came.
Oh shit.
And found the souls of lords within the flames.
This is hype.
Nito, the first of the day.
Yeah, Bloodborne is for more aggressive players.
And her daughters of chaos.
Yeah, that's how I've always been too. I suck at defensive games, so I'm gonna struggle with this one.
And his faithful knights. and the furtive pygmy, so easily forgotten. With the strength of lords, they challenged the dragons.
Do we have dragons in this game?
Gwyn's mighty bolts peeled apart their stone skins.
Dude's like Zeus.
Witches weaved great firestorms.
This shit's hype, man.
Leto unleashed a miasma of death and disease. And Seath the Scaleless betrayed his own, and the dragons were no more. Thus began the Age of Fire. But soon the flames will fade, and only dark will remain. Even now, there are only embers. And man sees not light, but only endless nights. And amongst the living are seen carriers of the accursed dark side.
It's a hype intro, dude. Let's fucking go. What do you get out of here? No, look, Kratos. This pretty man. Alright, guys. That's a good way to end it here. Hopefully, pretty soon, we will start this game. We shall start Dark Souls. Man, you guys think it's more difficult? Turtle Raid? What the hell? Oh, you guys must be from Matt's stream. Kratos' pretty face. He's contemplating his whole life. Atreus. What's up with these fucking turtles? Michelangelo. Yeah, I think we're going to struggle with Dark Souls a bit more, since it is defensively. I'm more of a aggressive type player. Kratos. Yeah, thanks, Matt. Love you too, man. Although the stream is about to end. It's been a very steamy stream here. Super quiet. Alright, dudes. Well, I'm gonna see you later. Go ahead and jump off here. Thanks, Sky. Yeah, I subbed to your channel too, man. I will be watching. I appreciate the support. And thanks to Matt, and thank you, Leslie R. Sky with 2 Y's, Bionic Dog, Leonti, Dragon Gaming, The Blue Comfy of Life, and of course Joe Bailey, Mr. Your Friend Joseph, who's going to be a mod. I think I already said the other ones. King TY Gaming, Blue Comfy of Life. Oh, I think I already said that one. Yeah, me too. Honestly. Just let me know how things are going. Alright, dudes. I'll see you around later. Should be back. Might be back tonight. Since, yeah, it has. It's just one chapter's done. My first full gameplay. I started with a great game. This is a perfect game to start this channel off with. Keep the momentum going with Dark Souls, hopefully. Alright, dudes. I'll catch you later. I might be back tonight. Possibly. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll probably pick up Bloodborne, like, I don't know. I'll just play through it again. Do like a quick run of it. See how easily we could do that. Or maybe some new game pluses with a just a different weapon set. Or just a different build, that is. Like now I want to do arcane build. I just don't plan on streaming it. But yeah, Bloodborne is definitely worth going back into. Well, you guys have a good time. Yeah, it is. Because I learned so much, you know. I learned, like, the importance of visceral attacks and all that stuff you don't really know when you begin. I plan the first 2 other endings as recordings in the future. Oh, cool, man. Yeah, I went back to Yarnum, just had a much simpler time. My second time on the New Game Plus. You just know how enemies react, and you know how to react to them. Instead of just running up, you need to, you know, at least parry them. Alright, guys. See, Joe and Joseph. 2 Joes. Catch you guys later. Have a good one.